Hi there, I'm Fiona. At my sister's wedding, I wasn't a bridesmaid. I wasn't even a guest. I was the parking attendant. Yeah, that was my role. Handing out valet tickets while strangers toasted to a future I wasn't invited to witness. But that wasn't the worst part. What really broke me was realizing they didn't forget me, they erased me. From the photos, from the live stream, from the family itself. And when I finally walked away, what happened next? Well, let's just say they didn't see it coming. Why would a mother hand her daughter a waiver just to silence her? Why would a bride secretly plan a divorce before saying, I do? And what would you do if it was your family? The sun hit my windshield like it had a grudge. I pulled into the gravel loop of the estate, tires crunching under me like brittle bones. Charleston could be beautiful in late spring, magnolias in bloom, the scent of salt in the air, but today it just felt like a setup, like the weather itself was mocking me. I parked off to the side near the back service area. Not the guest lot. No, this was clearly designated for help. The staff vehicles were lined up like obedient soldiers, SUVs, pickups, and a rental van with the catering logo half peeled off. I turned the engine off, stared at the grand colonial building ahead, and took a breath. 2 weeks ago, Clarice, my mother, had called. No greeting, no check-in, just, we're short-handed for the wedding. You're organized. You could manage the parking lot, couldn't you? No mention of me being family, no RSVP, just parking. Still, like a fool, I agreed. Why? I told myself it was about being helpful. But deep down, I hoped, stupidly, that maybe being present meant being seen. The first thing they gave me when I checked in was a lanyard, a laminated name badge clipped to it, bold black letters, Fiona, no last name, no designation, not sister of the bride, just Fiona, like I was part of a catering crew they'd picked up off Craigslist. Black on black, the coordinator said, handing me a staff shirt wrapped in plastic. We're going for cohesive. Clarice's voice echoed in my mind. Brand consistency matters. It's not personal. I slipped into the uniform in the staff restroom. Polyester, tight around the shoulders. It smelled like starch and someone else's perfume. I folded my jumpsuit carefully and tucked it into a plastic garment bag. I didn't feel like myself anymore. I felt like background noise. Guests started arriving just before noon. BMWs and Teslas gleamed in the sun like they were part of the decor. Some of the drivers nodded at me like I wasn't there. One woman actually waved me over, rolled her window down and chirped, "Is the valet bathroom out back too?" She laughed before I could answer, already rolling up the tinted glass. By the time the fifth luxury SUV pulled in, I stopped trying to smile. Every greeting from a stranger chipped at me, a reminder, you're not one of them. You're service now. I asked the event manager if I should assist inside once traffic slowed. She didn't even look up from her clipboard. No, you're scheduled outdoors only. Don't forget sunscreen. Inside, I knew they were taking photos. Toasts. A string quartet playing Vivaldi. I heard the faint clink of champagne glasses carried by the wind. Meanwhile, I stood in the heat, moving traffic cones with sweaty palms and a growing ache in my lower back. My shoes, ballet flats, never meant for gravel, were already scuffed. The blister forming on my heel was going to burst before the first dance even happened. A silver Lexus pulled in. The passenger window dropped and a familiar face leaned out, Mrs. Kellerman. She used to live down the street from us when I was a kid. She squinted. Fiona? Oh, I didn't realize you were working the wedding? Her words hung in the air like damp laundry. I lied gently. Just helping out. Family pitch-in. She smiled politely, the way people do when they don't know what to say, but definitely feel sorry for you. When the stream of cars slowed, I found a small patch of shade behind a pillar. I let my weight sink against it, pretending to check my phone. I wasn't expecting messages, but I still hoped. A message blinked on screen. Mason, still want me to show up? I stared at it. I hadn't told him how bad this was. He'd offered to fly in, just to support me. I said no. Said it wasn't worth the hassle. Now I wasn't so sure. I didn't answer. I just looked at the grand entrance in the distance. Music swelled from inside. Laughter, toasts, cheers. None of them were for me. And then, from the corner of my eye, I saw movement. Someone stepping out of the main hall. Not a guest, not staff either. A camera hung from his neck. The videographer. He wasn't filming the party anymore. He was filming me. I didn't move, didn't flinch. Just stood there, frozen, pretending the camera hadn't found me. The videographer had stepped out for candids, or so I assumed. He swung his camera casually like a bored tourist, catching clips of Delphine swirling in slow motion with guests on the lawn. Her veil danced like a ribbon. Her friends laughed at just the right volume. The lighting was golden, filtered, perfect. Then his lens shifted slightly, toward me. Out of habit, I offered a polite smile. Not wide, just enough. He paused, squinting at the viewfinder, then awkwardly lowered the camera. Sorry, he said, not quite meeting my eyes. Bride asked that we avoid filming the support team. Support team, that's what I was now? Not sister, not family, just support. I nodded once. No problem. He turned and wandered back toward the entrance, shoulders tight like he knew he'd crossed a line. I didn't blame him. He was just following a list. Everyone today was following some list, but that list didn't have my name on it. I took my phone out again and opened Instagram. There was a new carousel post on the wedding page, sunlight through champagne glasses, handwritten vows, Clarice laughing with Russell during the rehearsal dinner. I tried tagging Delphine in a comment. The screen flashed, user not found. I blinked. That couldn't be right. I tapped on her profile. Blank, vanished. No grid, no bio, blocked. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until the tightness in my chest pushed it out. Curious now, I checked the hashtag. #Delphine and Malcolm say I do. Hundreds of posts, clips, stories. None of them had me in a single frame, not even in the background. I moved to Facebook. Clarissa's profile was public, intentionally so, I was sure. Her feed was a shrine to Delphine. Toasts, centerpieces, family photos carefully chosen. In one, Russell stood between Delphine and Clarice, both women beaming. The caption read, "The three that built this day together." No mention of me. No likes from me either. I scrolled without touching anything, the way you stare at a storefront knowing you can't afford what's inside. The crunch of gravel made me look up. A voice followed it, low and familiar. "Hey, they said this was the check-in." It was Mason. He was holding a simple boutonniere and an envelope. My envelope. I'd written it 2 weeks ago. Inside was a short note. "Wear this and meet me near the back garden." I had tucked it into a card that said, "Thank you for not letting me disappear." I hadn't expected him to use it, but he had. A security guard blocked his path. "You're not on the app list," he said. "Bride's family cleared names this morning." "I'm here as a guest of Fiona," Mason said, calm but firm. The guard frowned. "We've got no Fiona registered on the guest tier." "I was personally invited," Mason said again. "I'm sorry, if your name isn't in the app or manual list, I can't let you inside." I stepped forward quickly. "It's okay," I said, my voice flat. "He's with me." The guard glanced at me, then shrugged. Mason's eyes searched mine. "You good?" I nodded once. "Yeah, go ahead, I'll text you." "You sure?" "Yeah," I lied. He lingered for a second, but I stepped back before he could say more. I watched him walk back toward his rental car, boutonniere still in hand. No fuss, no questions, just quiet disappointment. When his taillights disappeared down the gravel path, I sat on the edge of the wooden bench near the parking cones. My hands rested in my lap, motionless. The sting wasn't sharp. It was slow, numbing. I wasn't just unwelcome, I was edited out. No space at the table, no face in the feed, no voice in the room. My body was here, but the version of me that belonged to this family? She had been erased a long time ago. Today just confirmed it. I sat in that silence for a long time, watching shadows lengthen across the grass. Guests moved in pairs, sipping rosé, laughing under paper lanterns. I stayed where I was, just beyond the view of the lens. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mason. "They don't deserve you, but I'll wait nearby, just in case." I stared at the words. I didn't reply. A glass shattered somewhere near the patio. A chorus of claps followed. More laughter, more joy that didn't include me. And then a microphone clicked on inside. Clarissa's voice followed. The sound system wasn't perfect, but Clarissa's voice cut through like polished glass. "And now," she said, her tone syrupy and precise, "a toast to the reason we're all here today, I stood a few steps away from the patio doors. I could see the guests raising their glasses, heads tilted with polite expectancy. Delphine has always been our sunshine, Clarice continued. Our golden girl. The one who knew what she wanted even before she could spell it. She lights up every room she walks into. They clinked their flutes and smiled like they'd rehearsed it. I waited. Just one line, one syllable, something. Instead, Clarice added with a playful smirk, Some families get one perfect child. We got lucky. We got Delphine. The laughter was instant, light, carefree, like someone had made a harmless joke about a favorite dessert. But I didn't laugh. I didn't even blink, because it wasn't just a punchline, it was a scalpel. My phone slipped deeper into my back pocket. I crossed my arms and leaned against the stucco column by the patio stairs. A waiter passed without seeing me. A breeze lifted the edge of my staff shirt. Still scratchy, still not mine. That toast didn't hurt because it was surprising. It hurt because it wasn't. 2 weeks earlier, I'd stopped by Clarice's house. A quiet Sunday. I wasn't invited. I just showed up with a small velvet box and a handmade bracelet inside. Nothing extravagant. Just a thoughtful something blue, crafted with stones I knew Delphine liked. Because even when she didn't like me, I still remembered what she loved. Clarice opened the door just enough to see me. Her lips tightened. Delphine stood behind her, arms crossed, eyes already rolling. Mom, I said. I just wanted to wish her well. Clarice didn't open the door wider. Didn't invite me in. She didn't even glance down at the box in my hands. Instead, she looked over her shoulder at Delphine, then turned back to me and said, You don't get to do this anymore. I'm not trying to cause trouble, I said softly. You're not part of this, she interrupted. Calm, sharp, like she was canceling a subscription. I'm your daughter, I said. I didn't mean for it to come out like that, like a plea. Clarice's expression didn't shift. No, I have one daughter, the one getting married. She didn't whisper it. She didn't flinch. She just closed the door slowly, like she was hanging up a phone. Delphine didn't say a word, but she smiled. And that smile has stayed with me. It's strange, the things that stick. Moments that harden in your chest like stones. Not the big betrayals, but the small confirmations. The ones you knew were coming. I'd buried that moment, tried to rationalize it. She was stressed. Weddings make people weird. Maybe she didn't mean it like that. But now, hearing her toast echo over clinking glasses, her laughter dancing with the crowds, I knew better. This wasn't about stress. This was a pattern. Years ago, when I got my scholarship letter for pre-med, I'd shown it to her with shaking hands. She'd nodded, barely lifting her eyes from the stove, and said, That's nice, dear. When Delphine placed third in a spelling bee, Clarice threw a brunch, had a banner printed. Words matter and so does Delphine. My whole life had been an exercise in shrinking. Less attention, less fuss, less room to ask for more. But today wasn't just another day of being overlooked. Today was the day she told the world I didn't exist. The sky was shifting to amber as the afternoon edged closer to dusk. Guests started drifting toward the buffet, the small talk getting louder with wine. I walked away from the main entrance, trying to stay out of frame, out of reach. I passed a group of women near the garden hedge. One of them, maybe a cousin's plus one, whispered a little too loudly, Wait, is that the bride's sister? A second voice answered, No, I think she's adopted or something. They never talk about her. They didn't even lower their voices. I stopped behind a tree. My fingers curled into fists, not out of rage, but something slower, denser, grief, the kind that doesn't rush out. It settles. The gravel beneath my feet crunched as I turned around and headed back toward the parking lot. I couldn't be seen pacing. Staff wasn't supposed to linger where guests could see them idle. Not that I was truly staff, or family, or anything. I didn't notice the woman at first. She was already halfway across the lot, striding straight toward me in low heels and a silver wrap. Her hair was the color of frost, elegant, pinned back with minimal effort. Her posture made it clear she wasn't here to socialize. She stopped a few feet away. Her voice was low but unmistakably firm. You don't look like someone who belongs in a parking lot. I blinked, unsure if she was joking or scolding me. Then I realized who she was. Malcolm's mother, Vera. And whatever she was about to say, it wasn't small talk. Vera didn't look away. She just held my gaze like she was checking for something. Damage, maybe, or whatever was left underneath it. Then she reached into the pocket of her wrap and pulled out a cold bottle of water. The condensation slipped down her fingers as she extended it toward me. "Take it," she said. "Hydration is survival out here." I took the bottle, more out of surprise than need. The water cooled my hand instantly. I hadn't realized how dry my throat was. "You're her sister?" she asked, voice level but curious. "Yeah," I answered. She raised a single brow, the movement subtle. "Strange. Everyone inside pretends you don't exist." I gave a dry laugh, more breath than sound. "I'm not their pride," I murmured. "I'm the part they don't brag about." Vera didn't flinch. She looked at me the way a doctor might study a bruise, measuring depth, cause, and the likelihood of healing. "They'll regret that," she said softly. For a few seconds, I forgot where we were. The venue, the wedding, the invisible uniform I was sweating through. It was the first time all day someone looked at me without squinting like I was out of place. Vera wasn't offering sympathy. She was offering recognition. I almost didn't hear the footsteps approaching. A woman in crisp flats and a headset appeared, clipboard in hand, smiling like she practiced in a mirror. "Hi, are you Fiona?" she chirped. I turned slowly. "Depends on who's asking." "I'm with the coordination team," she said, glancing briefly at Vera, then back to me. "Clarice asked me to get your signature, just a formality." She handed me the clipboard. A neatly typed sheet sat on top with bolded headers. Volunteer and staff liability waiver, zero media clause. I skimmed the bullet points. No social media posting of any kind, no speaking to guests or press about internal matters, no presence in photo-video documentation, no disruption or interference with scheduled programming. I looked up at her. "Is this normal for parking attendants?" She smiled again. "It's just to prevent confusion. You're not on the guest list, so it's standard practice." Standard practice to silence someone. I turned the page over. Blank, no addendum, no explanation, just a line for my signature. "It's meant to protect the couple," she added quickly. "You know, from any misinterpretation or drama." "This is to keep me quiet," I said flat. She didn't argue, just smiled wider. "Clarice said you'd understand." That name did it. Clarice. My mother had found yet another way to erase me, legally this time. I didn't sign. I didn't tear it up either. I folded the form in half and slid it into my back pocket. I wasn't sure why I kept it. Instinct, maybe, or spite. The woman's smile twitched. She gave a little nod and walked off. I leaned against the nearest car, the heat from the hood seeping through my jeans. The bottle of water sat unopened beside me. If I signed that paper, I'd be everything they said I was. Quiet, easy, non-existent. If I refused, I'd be the troublemaker, the angry one, the bitter sibling who ruined a wedding. It was a trap, and the walls were made of polite smiles and perfect lighting. I stared out toward the guests drifting between the lawn and cocktail tables. I imagined the stories already forming in their heads. She always kept to herself. She was probably jealous. Some people just don't know how to be happy for others. They didn't know a damn thing, but the thing that simmered most wasn't sadness anymore. It was precision, like a blade finally being sharpened after years of being dulled on purpose. I felt Vera's eyes on me again. She had drifted a few steps away, but before she reached the main hall, she turned back. Her voice was clear. "Keep that form," she said. "You may need it, not to sign, but to show." And with that she walked inside. I stood alone again, but this time the quiet didn't sting. It buzzed, like electricity before a storm. Somewhere inside, a server dropped a tray and people gasped. But Malcolm wasn't paying attention to the spill. He was staring at an email on his phone. An email not meant for him. The tray crashed near the hors d'oeuvres table, and everyone gasped. But not Malcolm. He stood near the window, one hand wrapped around his phone, the other tucked into his jacket pocket. His posture had shifted, subtle, but unmistakable. The slack in his shoulders was gone. He wasn't watching the mess. He was reading something serious. Inside the glowing screen was an email that had slipped through the cracks, a forgotten forwarding rule from an old shared inbox during the early days of their wedding planning. He recognized the sender instantly. Law Office of Nancy J. Kincaid. Subject: Next Steps, Marriage Asset Consolidation. The email was addressed to Delphine. Lines stood out like sirens. Proceed with final stage 30 days post-merger. Once marital assets are integrated, execute quietly. He'll never suspect if you keep smiling. Malcolm didn't say a word. He didn't storm out, didn't demand an explanation. Instead, he slid the phone into his pocket and scanned the room. When his eyes landed on Vera, something passed between them, a nod. Barely there. He crossed the floor and whispered, "We were right." Vera didn't ask. She just pressed her lips together and answered, "Get the prenup?" He turned on his heel and walked straight toward the coordinator's tent. Back outside, I hadn't moved from my spot near the parking loop, but I felt it. The air was different, more electric, like a curtain was about to drop and no one inside had rehearsed what came next. I didn't know what Vera had seen or what Malcolm had read, but I knew when the atmosphere changed, and it had changed. 3 days earlier, Vera had called me late at night. Her voice was calm, but there was steel behind it. "Have you ever wondered why Delphine always knows where Malcolm is?" I had laughed bitterly. "Delphine doesn't trust shadows. She checks the locks twice." Vera replied, "He gave her his laptop password last year. I told him to change it. He didn't." That afternoon, Malcolm ran a security scan, just in case. And what he found wasn't just spyware. It was remote access software installed months ago, hidden under an old event planning tool Delphine had asked him to try. The app had permissions to track keystrokes, screenshots, even location pings. He hadn't told anyone, not even Vera, not until today. Now, watching him disappear into the reception tent, I knew that line had finally snapped. Across the garden path, Vera reappeared with a folded slip of paper in her hand. She walked straight toward me, no pretense. "This landed in my inbox yesterday," she said, holding it out. "Same law firm, same language, wrong address." I unfolded the printout. It was another email thread, different timestamp, but unmistakably familiar. Delphine had sent instructions to the lawyer, requesting clarification on Malcolm's asset categories. Her tone was professional, cold, calculating. "They're playing all of us," Vera said quietly, "but I think it's time we played back." My chest tightened, not from fear, from clarity. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't rivalry. This was strategy, and I had just been drafted to the other side. I slipped the paper into the same pocket where the waiver form still sat. We didn't hug. We didn't speak again. She just nodded once and walked back inside. Moments later, I saw Clarice. She was near the rose fountain, flanked by the wedding planner and one of the venue staff. They were whispering, glancing toward me like I'd grown a second head. Clarice's expression had shifted for the first time all day. Worry. She motioned toward the planner, said something clipped, and turned her gaze toward me. I didn't look away. Not this time. I just held her stare. Her mouth tightened. Her hands fidgeted with the pearls at her collar. For the first time, she wasn't in control. Then, near the bar, Malcolm reappeared. He spoke briefly to a staffer, then placed both hands on the counter and ordered a whiskey. No garnish, no ice. Just poured, straight. A moment later, my phone buzzed. One word from Vera. "Tonight." I exhaled slowly. Because the plan wasn't revenge. It was exposure. I could feel it in my spine, the shift, the beginning of the unraveling. A breeze had picked up, cooling the sweat behind my knees as I stood near the parking loop. The sun was lower now, everything cast in gold, even the lies. That's when it happened. A woman in a silky blush dress and oversized hat teetered her way toward me on glittery wedges, holding a half-empty champagne flute. She squinted at me. "Oh, good valet," she slurred, dangling her car keys like bait. "Can you bring the Lexus around? The gray one with the little hula dancer on the dash?" I blinked. I was still in the black event staff t-shirt Clarice insisted I wear. My hair was pulled back in a way that made me look more like someone's assistant than someone's sister. The woman pulled a $5 bill from her clutch and held it out. "Bless your heart. Weddings are brutal, huh?" I stared at the cash, then at her. And then I dropped the bill into the nearest trash can without saying a word. Her jaw fell open, but I'd already turned away. I pulled my phone from my back pocket and tapped into the thread Vera had forwarded me earlier. My fingers scrolled slowly, careful not to miss anything. It was Delphine's message to her lawyer. "We'll sign the prenup to shut Vera up, then void it quietly after the merger. Malcolm won't even notice. He's too busy playing the good guy." A cold chill settled over me. They hadn't just humiliated me. They were about to defraud a man in front of 200 witnesses, and smile while doing it. I looked down at my outfit one more time. Then I walked to my car, threw open the back door, and yanked out the outfit I'd worn earlier. My navy jumpsuit, simple jewelry, low heels. I changed behind the car, tucked my hair into a twist, and applied lipstick in the mirror of my visor. When I looked up, I didn't see the help anymore. I saw someone who knew too much, and had nothing left to lose. "I'm not your valet," I muttered under my breath. "And I'm done playing nice." I walked back up the gravel path, past the archway wrapped in fake peonies, toward the main reception tent. As soon as I stepped onto the stone porch, I felt it. The eyes. A few servers froze mid-step. The wedding planner whispered urgently into her earpiece. A security guard shifted in place. Clarice was standing near the fountain, chatting with a family friend. When she spotted me, her smile flickered like a bad signal. She walked fast, intercepting me near the guest book table. "What do you think you're doing?" she hissed under her breath, keeping her expression tight for the surrounding guests. I pulled out the folded waiver from my pocket and held it up. "Relax," I said calmly. "I didn't sign it." Her hand twitched. "You were told to stay outside." "I was told a lot of things," I replied, stepping past her. "But this one's my decision." She reached for my arm, but I'd already moved on. Inside, the music was softer, slow jazz humming through the air. Chandeliers sparkled like they didn't know the ceiling was about to fall in. People turned, some whispered. Then Delphine saw me. She froze mid-laugh, her champagne glass pausing an inch from her mouth. Our eyes locked. She blinked like I was a ghost, a glitch in the simulation. I walked toward the bar. Malcolm was there, drink in hand, speaking low to Vera. She looked up and nodded at me once, quick and certain. "It's time," she said. The planner noticed us then, hovering too close for coincidence. I turned to her and smiled. "Do me a favor," I said. "You might want to record this part." Malcolm stood tall, adjusted his tie, and stepped onto the stage meant for toasts. He raised his hand once and the band stopped mid-chord. Forks dropped, glasses paused. Conversations died mid-sentence. He cleared his throat. "Before dinner, I need to say something." Delphine smiled tightly, walking toward him, but he didn't look at her. He looked out into the crowd. "About who I am, and who I'm marrying." And in that moment, just for a second, her smile cracked. The air didn't shift, it cracked. Delphine's expression twitched, the edges of her mouth faltering as Malcolm's words echoed across the ballroom. There was a hesitation in the crowd, like a group inhale waiting to exhale. Malcolm stepped forward, the mic firm in his hand. His voice didn't waver. "Before we begin dinner, I think we all deserve honesty." He reached into the inside pocket of his suit jacket and pulled out a neatly folded document. My chest tightened. I already knew what it was. Vera had shown it to me hours earlier. "This is a prenup agreement we were both meant to honor," Malcolm said. He looked directly at Delphine. "But she sent instructions to her attorney to void it. 30 days after this wedding, after our assets merged." A gasp rippled through the room. Somewhere in the back, a fork clattered against a plate. Delphine blinked, her eyes darting toward the exit, then back to Malcolm. She opened her mouth, but said nothing. He unfolded the paper, lifted it high enough for the crowd to see. "Would you like to read it, Delphine?" he asked, offering it toward her. "Since you wrote it?" She didn't move. I watched her face, how it searched the room for someone to rescue her. But this time, no one came. Clarice, of course, did what Clarice always did. She moved quickly, stepping forward in heels that struck the marble floor too loud, too sharp. "That's enough," she snapped. "You're humiliating her. You're ruining her wedding." Malcolm turned his eyes on her. Calm, steel. She did that when she lied. Clarice's head snapped toward me, venom already coating her voice. "You've poisoned this family. You've always been bitter, a troublemaker. And that's when I heard him. No, it wasn't a shout, it was firmer, like a stone dropped in a still lake. Everyone turned. Russell, my father. He stepped into the light slowly, his posture straighter than I remembered, his voice clearer than I'd ever heard. She didn't ruin this family, he said. We did. The room stilled again, breathless. Clarice stared at him, aghast. You're siding with her? He shook his head. I'm not siding. I'm confessing. He turned to face the crowd, our family, their friends, all the strangers who came for champagne and floral centerpieces and fairy tale lies. For years we looked the other way. Every time Clarice played favorites. Every time Delphine twisted things. We let it happen. His voice broke slightly, but he continued. Fiona wasn't a problem. She was inconvenient, and we failed her. I didn't know I was crying until I tasted salt. Delphine tried to recover. She stepped forward, holding out her hands like a magician trying to recapture a spell gone wrong. They're making this up, she said. This is fake, all of it. But then Vera stepped forward, measured, composed. Then explain the email. The surveillance software you installed on Malcolm's devices. The prenup language that matches your own drafts. She raised an eyebrow. And the hard drive we found in the bridal suite closet, hidden behind a bouquet box. Want to explain that too? Delphine's mouth opened, then closed. Fiona, the shadow, the background noise, the one in black by the cars, was now at the center of the room. And for once, Delphine had no script to steal the spotlight back. She let out a strangled breath. Then she did what she always did when things didn't go her way. She bolted. The mic slipped from her hand, crashing to the ground with a screech of feedback. She stormed toward the doors, but her dress snagged on the leg of a chair and tore near the hemline. A sharp rip, a stunned silence, followed by gasps. No one followed her. At least not yet. Clarice stood frozen. Her eyes flicked to me, not with fury this time, but something else. Recognition. For the first time, she looked at me and didn't see a problem to manage. She saw a reckoning. Then she turned, gathering the folds of her shawl around her, and followed her golden daughter out the ballroom doors. The music didn't start back up. Nobody toasted, and no one dared pretend it was still a wedding. The doors hadn't even closed behind Clarice when the shift began. It wasn't loud. No shouts, no slammed glasses, just the air thinning. Conversations dropped off like someone had pulled a plug. It was the kind of silence you don't notice at first, until it's everywhere. People started to stand. One by one, guests tucked away napkins, glanced toward the exits, murmured to spouses. The hum of a ruined evening filled the space like low static. The ballroom, once glowing and packed, now emptied like a tide pulling back. There was no dinner, no champagne towers, no photo booth line, no bouquet toss. The music had died hours early, and so had the fairy tale. Malcolm sat at the sweetheart table, alone, his tie loosened, a drink untouched beside him. Vera moved calmly around the venue staff, quietly giving instructions, making sure the cleanup started gently, without the sound of defeat. My phone buzzed, a message, from Clarice. Come to the side hall, let's talk. No apology, no context, just a command, dressed as an invitation. I read it once, then pressed and held the screen. Delete conversation? The phone asked. Yes, because for the first time, I didn't feel like explaining myself anymore. I didn't feel like being summoned, and I sure as hell didn't feel like being managed. Instead, I walked over to Vera, who stood beside the dessert table that hadn't even been uncovered. She looked up from a checklist and offered me a quiet smile. I pulled the folded document from my pocket. The waiver, still unsigned, still blank. I handed it to her. She took it gently, as if handling evidence. This, she said, snapping a photo with her phone. This is what we call intimidation. But now, she looked up at me, sharp and certain. Now it's a receipt. She tucked the paper into her clutch. I've got lawyers, and a few friends who owe me favors in places where scandals don't go unnoticed. I didn't ask what she meant. I just knew that, for once, I wasn't the one being erased. I took a deep breath and turned away. The reception hall had dimmed slightly, as if even the chandeliers were tired. I walked through the space slowly, the echo of my heels tapping softly against the polished floor. A few guests lingered in clusters, whispering. Some looked at me with discomfort, some with pity, a few with respect? I didn't return any glances, didn't wave, didn't flinch. Clarice was nowhere in sight. Delphine either, and I didn't care. I'd spoken without shouting, stood up without a mic, told the truth without ever raising my voice. I passed the table where I once would have sat. White linen, untouched silverware, a name card that never had my name, and I kept walking. As I neared the exit, someone was waiting. Russell. He didn't say a word, he didn't try to hug me, or apologize, or ask for forgiveness wrapped in excuses. Instead, he held out his phone. A photo on the screen, 2 little girls, one in a glittery store-bought princess dress, the other in a crooked homemade dragon costume, half slipping off one shoulder. Me. I looked at him. His eyes were glassy, his face tired, but he gave a single nod. That was all. I stepped past him. Out the ballroom. Out of the story they'd written for me. Outside, the air had cooled. Dusk had turned to full night, and the fairy lights twinkled over the courtyard like nothing had happened. Like the night hadn't shattered. Mason's car was already waiting. He didn't step out, didn't open the door. He just waited. I slid in beside him, shutting the door behind me. He glanced at me, didn't ask. I exhaled. Long, deep, like air I'd been holding for years finally left my lungs. We didn't speak, he just drove. And for once I wasn't walking away, I was walking out. By the time we reached the city line, the car ride had settled into a calm kind of quiet, the kind you don't rush to fill. Mason didn't ask where I wanted to go. He just drove, as if the answer wasn't a destination, but a feeling. We stopped for drive-through milkshakes at a place we used to love back in college. Chocolate for him, strawberry for me. Something about that felt like reclamation, not nostalgia exactly. More like a gentle reminder. Not all endings taste bitter. The next morning, I woke to the sun breaking through thin curtains in Mason's guest room. For the first time in years, I didn't check my phone before stretching. When I did, though, headlines were already waiting. Charleston heiress's wedding implodes amid legal leak. Prenup scandal rocks Southern society circle. Screenshots of Delphine's emails had hit a few forums overnight. I didn't post them. Neither did Vera. But someone had. Someone with access and, apparently, a conscience. Her Instagram went dark. No stories, no reels, just silence where there used to be branded joy. The comments under her last bridal glam post were ruthless. So that's why the cake never got cut. I knew something was shady. Girl gave networking, not love. Lawsuit pending energy? Yikes. She wasn't canceled exactly, but the glow, gone. Malcolm filed for annulment the following Monday. Vera, quiet as ever, made no statement, but she did make a donation to a women's legal advocacy center in Charleston. In my name. I didn't ask for that, but I didn't return it either. Clarice, on the other hand, disappeared offline completely. Her Facebook scrubbed clean of anything tagged wedding. No new posts, no profile pic, just one voicemail on my phone. I know I failed, I don't know how to fix that. No plea, no tears. Still, I didn't reply. I didn't block her either. But I wasn't ready to hand her my peace, wrapped in forgiveness she hadn't earned. Some silences are less about anger and more about boundaries. Back in Atlanta, I started small. Took on a freelance gig helping a local nonprofit restructure their operations. Nothing flashy. But it felt good to be useful again. On my terms. I started jogging again. Just a mile or two in the early morning. It helped clear the thoughts that still clung some days. The weight of old patterns. The echoes of a family that always made me feel like background noise. I bought a necklace. Not for show, not to match anything. Just a thin silver chain with a small F charm. A name I didn't need anyone else to validate. I never rewatched the wedding video. Didn't need to. Sometimes closure isn't about tying the bow, it's about walking away from the box altogether. Weeks later, I got mail. A small white envelope, no return address. But the handwriting made my chest tighten. Inside was a photo. 2 little girls, side by side in a driveway. One wore a glittery costume from a catalog. The other wore a lopsided dragon tail made of old towels and duct tape. Me. Tucked behind the photo was a note. Just 3 lines. I should have made you both feel seen. You were never invisible to me. Dad. I didn't cry, but I kept the photo, not for memory's sake, but to remind myself that even flawed people sometimes find their voice, even if it comes late. Now, most evenings, I sit out on the porch of the duplex I rent. It's nothing fancy. The wood creaks in the wrong spots, but it's mine, quiet, chosen. Tonight, I sipped mint tea as the last of the light melted behind the trees. Mason called from inside. You okay out there? I smiled into the dusk. I'm not okay, I called back, voice steady. I'm something better. I looked at the horizon, let the quiet settle around me like armor I'd finally earned. Then softly, to no one but myself, I whispered, I choose me. Before you scroll past, I want to say something I wish someone had said to me a long time ago. If you've ever felt like the outsider in your own family, if you've ever sat quietly in a room full of people who were supposed to love you and still felt like a stranger, this is for you. You are not alone, you are not invisible, and you are not required to keep shrinking yourself to fit into a space that was never made to hold all of you. Too often, we're taught that keeping the peace means keeping quiet. That being the bigger person means swallowing hurt, ignoring disrespect, or pretending things don't cut as deep as they do. But here's the truth. Peace that costs you your voice, your worth, your identity, that's not peace. That's silence disguised as survival. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't leaving. It's choosing to walk away with your head high, without bitterness, without begging, and without needing anyone's approval. Choosing peace over permission, dignity over validation, yourself over the version of you they expect. It took me 37 years to stop waiting for someone to pick me, to stop bending backwards hoping someone would see my value. And the day I finally chose myself, that day changed everything. Was it easy? No. But was it worth it? Every damn bit. You may never get the apology you deserve. You may never hear the words you've been aching to hear since you were a kid. That doesn't make your pain any less real, and it sure doesn't make your healing any less valid. So let me ask you something straight up. Have you ever kept your mouth shut to keep the peace, even though it tore you up inside? Have you ever played small just to avoid making others uncomfortable? And if so, are you ready to stop doing that? I'd love to hear your story. Whether it's messy, raw, unfinished, none of that disqualifies it. We don't heal by hiding. We heal by speaking, by sharing, by knowing we're not the only ones. If this hit something in you, if it stirred up a truth you've been afraid to say, drop a 1 in the comments or let me know where you're watching from. If it didn't land, that's okay too. I want to hear from you anyway. Tell me what felt off. Let's talk. Let's learn. No judgment here. And if you're in that in-between space, halfway between silence and standing up, I see you. I've been there. You are not too late. You are not too much. And you are not alone. If you want more conversations that tell the truth, that go beneath the surface, that remind us we're all still trying to figure it out, subscribe. Stick around. Your voice matters here. Your story matters. You matter. I'll see you in the next one.
My name's Tom. Recently, I got married to someone very special to me, but it wasn't a smooth journey to get to this point. I'm planning to share the story of my wife and me in chronological order. My wife and I were both hired at the same company, both the same age, having both joined the company as college graduates. My wife's name is Margaret. Back then, we were just colleagues, and I used to casually call her Margaret. After our orientation, we ended up in the same department. We were both in sales, encouraging each other to do our best, grinding day in and day out. At the time, I had a girlfriend. We were getting along pretty well, I'd say. Then, in late April, I got a call from my buddy Joe. Joe is an old high school buddy of mine. We went to different colleges, but would occasionally hang out, just the guys. I got a call from Joe saying, I've got a couple of tickets for an amusement park. Want to bring our girlfriends? I'd never been on a double date before, so it was a bit awkward, but it seemed like it could make a good memory. My girlfriend was also up for it, so we decided to go. On the day of our double date during the long weekend, we met up at the location. I got out of my car and shouted, "Hey Joe." Joe raised his hand. "Hey, long time no see." We both knew that we had girlfriends, but we'd never actually met them or even heard their names before. Feeling a bit jittery, we introduced our girls. "This is Margaret. Nice to meet I." The moment I saw the face of the girl stepping out of Joe's car, I said, "What? Margaret? Tom, is that you?" We both looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. Turns out, my buddy Joe's girlfriend was none other than my coworker Margaret. "No way. I knew you were in sales, but Tom and Margaret, you're at the same company." Joe was equally shocked and raised his voice. It was such a coincidence. All we could do was laugh, riding that wave of laughter. We all acted like kids running around an amusement park. Then, at lunchtime, they said they had something to tell me. Joe and Margaret were planning to get married in June. The wedding date was still up in the air, but they said once they'd saved up some cash, they'd like to have a wedding. So, come a lucky day in June, Joe and Margaret tied the knot. Margaret kept her last name. I heard that ever since they got married, Margaret's been making Joe's lunch every day. I was privy to all these lovey-dovey stories, but as for me, I got dumped by my girlfriend that fall. All ever since she heard Joe and Margaret were getting married, she'd been mulling over our future. I'd been thinking about it too, but what she said hit me hard. "I can't see a future with you." I asked if I'd done something wrong, but her response was vague, something like, "It just doesn't feel right." Let the past be the past, I thought, but it was a tough pill to swallow. Joe and Margaret were the ones who consoled and encouraged me. Despite being newlyweds, they'd invite me over and lift my spirits with some drinks. Best friends and coworkers, including myself, the three of us started hanging out more. Once Joe and Margaret got married, I thought this enjoyable dynamic would last forever. Then, a new year rolled around, and spring came along. It was the spring marking our second year at the company. One Monday, when work hours had already started, Margaret was nowhere to be found. "Is she unusually off work today?" Just as I was about to ask my boss that, my phone rang. It was an old high school buddy. "Sorry to bother you at work, but I just got a call from a friend." Without any pleasantries, he sounded rushed, but the next words from him left me in shock. "Joe. Joe had an accident." It was a call to tell me that Joe had passed away this morning. "What? Joe, you're kidding me. What do you mean he's gone?" I was rattled. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The accident happened last night. Joe was in the passenger seat of a friend's car, and an oncoming car, apparently a dozing driver, ran into the car Joe was in. He was rushed into emergency surgery but passed away in the early hours. I attended Joe's funeral. "Joe, why did it have to be you?" I couldn't stop the tears. The harsh reality was too much to take. Margaret held it together at first but broke down crying during the service. I couldn't bear to look at her like that, so I covered my face with a handkerchief, trying to stifle my sobs. Afterwards, Margaret took a month off work. By the time she came back, she had lost a lot of weight. When she returned, she came to my desk. "Tom, thanks for all the emails. Sorry for worrying you." Margaret smiled, but I could tell she was still forcing it. "Even I can't believe that Joe's gone. That's why I've been so worried about." During her time off, I had been sending her emails at night. "Are you eating properly? Getting good sleep in your bed?" That's all I could really ask in my mails. But Margaret told me she appreciated those messages. Being alone at night was tough for her. When she got home, the loneliness hit her hard, and she couldn't get anything down. When she got an email from me, it made her think that she had to at least try to live a normal life. Even if it was just one sandwich, she managed to eat it. Seeing Margaret like that, I couldn't bring myself to say, "I hope you get better soon." All I could do to make her feel even a little bit better was to invite her out for dinner after work. I've tried a couple of times with colleagues who are also worried about her, but she declined, saying she's not up for it yet. But we kept asking her, and eventually she accepted our invitation. Her appetite was small, but seeing Margaret say the food was good and actually eating a little made me feel somewhat relieved. On our way back from dinner, as we live in the same direction, Margaret and I walked down the night streets together. Then, Margaret started talking about Joe. "He's in the cemetery now, and all that's left at home is his portrait. I'm really alone now." Margaret started to cry, her tears flowing freely. All I could do for her was offer her my handkerchief and rub her back. Her sorrow from losing Joe is beyond my own. With that thought, I found myself at a loss for words. I'm sorry. Thank you. Margaret had been crying for a while, but she said that and started walking again. I had initially planned to only walk her part of the way home, but I couldn't bear to let her walk alone in her current state, so I ended up walking her all the way to her house. There, I lit a candle in memory of Joe. Pictures from the funeral, along with cheerful photos of Margaret and Joe, adorned the room. Seeing that, I couldn't hold back my tears either. I'm sorry for crying when I should be the one encouraging you. My words got choked up in tears. It's too soon, isn't it? We had so much more ahead of us. It's frustrating, but I bet Joe is the most frustrated of all. Margaret said, as she wiped away her tears. But I have to keep going or else Joe would worry, she shared. Even though she might not be fully ready yet, she's trying to cheer up a little bit at a time. I wondered what I could do for Margaret. All I can do is listen to her and take her out to eat. That felt so inadequate. Margaret had said that she finds it easier to cope while working, but it seemed like she was putting on a brave face. Yet, she managed to get through the first anniversary of Joe's passing. While she still had her down moments, Margaret was slowly getting her spirits back. During this time, the support from everyone remained unchanged. A few of us from work kept inviting her out to dinner after work. I continued to walk Margaret back to her house. On days when we got home early, I would light a candle in memory of Joe. One day, while I was walking Margaret back to her house, she asked, "Why do you always walk me home? I don't want you to be in danger if something happens on the way home. There are dark streets. Besides, if something happened to Margaret, Joe would be furious. I don't care if it's none of my business, but I have to protect you, whom Joe cherished so much. Otherwise, he's going to get mad at me in my dreams about what I'm doing." I said all this with a bit of a chuckle to lighten the mood. Margaret said, "Thanks," and she laughed. Time passed, and we reached the third anniversary of Joe's passing. Both Margaret and I were more involved in our work than ever. On exhausting days, we continued to unwind by going out to dinner with some coworkers. Then one day, as I was walking Margaret home again, she said she had a small favor to ask. "You see, the light bulbs in my foyer and dressing room have gone out. I tried standing on a step stool, but I just can't reach. Could you help?" To Margaret, who seemed a bit embarrassed to ask, I cheerfully replied, "Sure thing, no big deal. Don't sweat the small stuff," I added, and Margaret smiled as if she were really pleased. Once inside her house, I replaced the light bulbs for her. "Thanks so much. It's surprising how much you're needed, Paul," Margaret said. I joked, "Well, good thing I could reach the ceiling. Otherwise, that would have been embarrassing, huh?" Margaret laughed and said, "Funny thing is, when Joe changed a light bulb in another room, he was barely reaching it, trembling all the while." I laughed back, "Ha! Well, I'm way taller than him. Yeah, this ceiling would be a stretch for Joe." Margaret suddenly burst out laughing. I stepped down from the step stool, folded it up, and handed it over to her. But just then, our fingers lightly touched, and our eyes met unexpectedly. The laughter that filled the air between us abruptly ceased. However, I looked away and acted as if I felt nothing. That's when Margaret softly said, "Hey, why are you so kind?" Hearing that, our eyes met again. For a split second, I felt my heart skip a beat, but I said nothing and just looked at Margaret. "You're always encouraging me, and you're always concerned. You're too kind. I might get the wrong idea." Margaret spoke slowly. Once again, I felt my heart flutter. But then she said, "Just kidding. Sorry, forget it. Geez, maybe I'm a little tipsy today," and went on to put away the step stool as if nothing had happened. However, I found myself chasing after her, and before I knew it, I was hugging her from behind. A moment of silence passed. I could feel the warmth radiating from Margaret in my arms. Then it hit me, the feeling that I wanted to protect Margaret was there, and it wasn't just as a coworker or as a friend's wife. I was falling for Margaret. But the moment I realized this, my buddy Joe's face flashed through my mind. So I loosened my arms that were wrapped around her. "Sorry, I'm going to be a little tipsy too." I apologized to Margaret. Margaret shook her head, saying no, and turned towards me. A tear was visible in her eye. I lifted my gaze slightly, and it landed on Joe's framed photo. Without a word, I walked up to the photo and lit a candle in my heart. I whispered, "Sorry, Joe," unable to say anything else. Then I told Margaret, "See you at work tomorrow," and left her house. The next day at the office, Margaret and I acted as if nothing had happened. But from that day on, every time our eyes met, it felt as if we were swallowing something. I suspected Margaret felt the same way. These days continued for a while, and then one day, while I was walking Margaret home after having dinner with coworkers, an unusual silence filled the air. The words we'd been holding back since that moment had been gradually growing stronger. I stopped walking. Margaret noticed and stopped too. Then I finally told Margaret how I felt. "Is it so bad if it's me? I want to be by your side in any way possible." That was my true, sincere feeling. Margaret looked at me, and after a moment of silence, nodded yes. She had accepted my feelings. But it wasn't the end. On my day off that week, I went to a certain place. I stood in front of Joe's grave. This was important news. I wanted to say it here, where Joe was. "Joe, I've come to make a resolution. I'll make Margaret happy, and I'll take good care of her on your behalf too. So please accept that I'll be the one with her. I promise I'll protect her smile, no matter what." I said that, then bowed my head in front of Joe's grave. How long I closed my eyes and bowed, I can't say. Suddenly, I felt a gentle warm breeze blow by. I lifted my head and looked at Joe's grave, asking, "Do you forgive me?" I posed a question like that. Then another warm breeze blew. It felt like Joe was answering me. That warm wind had a kindness to it that reminded me of how Joe used to speak. I said, "Thank you," and bowed my head deeply once more. "I promise I'll absolutely keep this vow." I swore that to Joe. As I left, I turned towards Joe's grave one last time and said, "Joe, I'll be back." With that, I walked away. A decade has passed since then. We had just recently observed the 13th anniversary of Joe's passing. Margaret and I have been together ever since, living in a committed relationship, much like a common law marriage. On a day that came after that, Margaret suddenly said she had something important to discuss. It was on our way back from visiting Joe's grave to honor his memory. It had become our custom to pause and rest at a park before heading back home after these visits. That's when Margaret suddenly turned serious and started speaking. "Tom, it's been a while, and we just had Joe's 13th memorial service. So I've been thinking, it's about time. I know we shouldn't rush to conclusions, but we need to think about our own lives too. I'm sorry for everything up to this point. Thanks for being there for me," Margaret said, her hand trembling as she held out a marriage license. I hugged Margaret tightly. "Don't apologize. I'm the one who said any form of us is fine, right?" Margaret broke into tears, nodded yes, and forced a smile. "Hey, don't cry. If you do, I'll feel like I've broken a man-to-man promise." I cheerfully said that to prevent Margaret from crying any further. Margaret laughed and said, "What's this man-to-man promise you were talking about?" "Well, never mind that." I hugged Margaret again and looked up at the sky. "Joe, I promise to keep my word to you. I'm sure Joe is watching over us, happy to see Margaret smiling." And so we became a married couple. 2 years later, a new life was born into our family. A cute little girl who looks like Margaret. On the day our child was born, there was a meteor shower. It was a special day for other reasons too. Joe loved stargazing. Both Margaret and I knew that. So we couldn't help but think that he was sending his blessings for a safe childbirth and our happiness. The child was safely born, full of energy, and she has since filled our lives with her adorable laughter. To ensure that the family we're committed to protecting can always smile, and while cherishing our loved ones as they deserve, we plan to keep living life in our way. I ran into a former high school classmate, Lucy, who used to dislike me at a friend's engagement party. Lucy, upon meeting my wife Olivia, asked her with a malicious smile, "Why on earth did you marry this guy?" As Olivia looked uncomfortable, she said, "My husband is an elite department head. I'd love to see your shabby workplace." Haha. Lucy only knew me as a poor student who used to juggle multiple part-time jobs during our school days. She couldn't shake off that image and assumed I was being financially supported by Olivia. Feeling uneasy, I decided to leave the party. I picked up my belongings after saying goodbye to Lime, who had invited us. It's me who should introduce you to my husband's workplace. At that moment, it wasn't me who retaliated against Lucy but my wife. I am Mark Parker. I'm the CEO of a spa and hotel called Lu. Lusso means luxury in Italian. My intention is to provide a luxurious experience at Lu for those overwhelmed by work, home responsibilities, and parenting. Currently, I'm 40 years old, and my hobby is watching anime. The quality of recent anime is so impressive. Each episode feels like a movie. I have a wife, Olivia, who is 5 years younger than me, and 3 daughters. My eldest daughter just started elementary school this spring. Olivia often tells me, "You need to dress more like a CEO," since I'm not concerned about fashion. But my old habits of frugality persist. I find it hard to wear high-end brands. I'm happy with lunches under $10 and love the $1 coffees from supermarkets. That's why people are always surprised when they first learn I'm a CEO. Olivia is also a business owner. She opened a specialty store for hypoallergenic jewelry inspired by her own metal allergy. Her savvy promotion on social media quickly led to her earning $100,000 a month. I often take her stylish photos for outings. When I share stories like these, people often say, "You must have led a glamorous life, or were your parents wealthy?" But that's not the case. I grew up in a very poor family. Even before I was born, my father was a heavy gambler, and my mother struggled a lot. My mother worked from dawn till dusk every day, taking care of both the nursery drop-offs and pickups, as well as all the household chores. It was almost like living in a single-parent household, yet she never gave up on my father, hoping he would reform. However, one day my father suddenly disappeared, taking with him my mother's savings. Our already poor life became even harder. As a child, I vaguely understood the situation, so I never asked for toys or sweets and was used to being looked down upon at school. When I reached high school, I started working at a bar. I can finally help my mom, I thought. I'm thrilled to be able to support the household finances, I thought, filled with happiness. However, my grades plummeted due to my daily grind at part-time jobs. Days went by where I was constantly overcome by drowsiness during class and hardly ever submitted my homework properly. Yet I prioritized my part-time job. My homeroom teacher, who knew about my family situation, didn't scold me, but the other teachers made me stay after school as a punishment. While I was doing homework alone after school, Lucy, a classmate, walked in. Lucy rarely came to school, but she was still popular because she was a fashion model. She had been appearing in magazines and children's TV shows since elementary school. Everyone in our hometown expected Lucy to become a superstar in the future. It seemed Lucy had also been ordered to stay after school. I secretly celebrated inside. I never imagined I'd get to do homework with a celebrity. We were alone for an hour until Mr. Johnson came back. Lucy's hair was fluffy and smelled nice. I was overwhelmed by her model-like aura. But my joy was crushed within 5 minutes. Lucy pushed her homework onto me. "Please take care of this. Here's a sample," she said, handing me a notebook with only a few pages written. "Make sure your handwriting looks like mine so it doesn't get caught," she instructed, then took out a magazine from her bag and started intently looking at her own pages. She was nothing but a spoiled diva. I was angry with her, but not wanting to cause trouble in our relationship. I also did Lucy's homework. Days like this continued, and about a week later, as I was quickly finishing my homework to start on Lucy's, Mr. Johnson suddenly entered the room. Lucy, who was touching up her makeup on the desk, looked panicked. Mr. Johnson approached me and picked up the homework. I thought something was off. It's the same handwriting as Mark's. I had tried to mimic Lucy's handwriting, but to Mr. Johnson, it seemed identical to mine. I had messed up. Lucy glared at me, clicking her tongue. Being rarely at school and now caught skipping detention homework, Lucy faced a 2-week suspension. I thought, all that for this. But I later heard that a bag check revealed forbidden snacks and cosmetics in her bag. Lucy's suspension quickly turned into bad rumors. In an era without cell phones, rumors spread from mouth to mouth, transforming as they went. TV stations and magazine editors who disapproved of Lucy's school behavior started canceling contracts with her. With no work left, Lucy began attending school every day. Even without modeling jobs, Her beauty and glamorous appearance made her popular at school. However, blaming me for the start of her troubles, Lucy began to harass me. She threw my bag into the rainy schoolyard, intentionally dropped my lunch on the floor, and even caused a scene at my part-time job, making me pay for her expenses. Come on, poor boy, treat me with your meager earnings. Gradually, I couldn't stand the cold stares from my coworkers and quit. Then I started doing light work from home. The pay was shockingly low. This won't help with living expenses at all. I felt downcast, but my mother encouraged me, saying, "People who are mean to others will eventually face karma. A fun life awaits after you graduate from high school." I finally graduated from high school and became a college student. Just the fact that Lucy wasn't there made me happy. But I found it hard to trust those around me, remaining isolated during lunch breaks. With my mother also busy every day, leaving no time to go out together, I wondered how to spend my time. When I stumbled upon an advertisement for a job vacancy at a resort hotel, I had never traveled except for school events. Out of curiosity, I applied and to my surprise, received a call immediately saying, "We look forward to having you start next week." The part-time work at the resort hotel changed my life. I started off with behind-the-scenes tasks like cleaning guest rooms, then moved on to front desk staff and pool lifeguard, experiencing various jobs while moving between resort locations. There were so many family smiles, an extraordinary atmosphere, and a sense that just being there excited me. Since it was a short-term job, the absence of stress from interpersonal relationships was a plus. I saved my earnings and presented my mother with her first trip. During the trip at a famous spa and hotel, she smiled happily the entire time. At that moment, I vowed, from now on, I will work hard to afford my mother a life of luxury. From my second year of college, I began studying business management in earnest while working at the resort hotel. I traveled to hotels and resorts nationwide for research. Upon graduating, I started my own business with investment from backers. I opened the hotel in Sposo and implemented various initiatives, such as offering single mothers and their children a 50% discount and giving students who work for 3 hours a day pay plus a spa pass. As soon as social media emerged, I focused on advertising there, making sure not to fall behind the times. Thanks to that, 15 years later, the company has grown to an annual revenue of $350 million. This is my life. Today is my daughter's school observation day. She's a first grader at the well-known international school nearby. I couldn't attend the entrance ceremony due to work, so I was determined to go today no matter what. Olivia, wearing her new dress, looked stunning. Arriving at school, I saw parents dressed in brand-name clothes entering the classroom. I should have bought new clothes too, I regretted as I went to the bathroom. I'm going to the bathroom before heading to the classroom. It's class 13. I'll go ahead and chat with the other moms. After using the bathroom, I headed to classroom 13. I could see my daughter from the hallway. Her posture was straight, and her slightly nervous expression was adorable. As I moved to stand next to Olivia, I saw Lucy among the parents. No way, I thought. I never imagined I'd have anything to do with Lucy again. Yet there she was, chatting amiably with Olivia. Would she notice me if I went now? I decided to stand in a corner out of Lucy's sight. The class observation ended without me ever standing by my wife's side. I was moved by my daughter's presentation yet anxious about being noticed by Lucy. I met up with my wife at the school gate. I wanted us to sit together. Sorry, it was about to start when I got back from the bathroom, and I didn't want to walk in front of everyone. Well, I have to go pick up the little one from daycare. I had to return to work, so Olivia and I parted ways. As I was leaving the school to call a taxi, I heard Lucy's voice. "Isn't that Mark? Were you hiding from me since the observation started?" It seemed I had been noticed. Lucy, arms crossed and looking angry, glared at me just like before, unchanged from our high school days. "Long time no see. You're still being supported by your wife, aren't you?" Lucy spoke to me even though I was in a hurry for a meeting. When the taxi arrived, I hurriedly got in. On the way to the office, unpleasant memories from high school flooded my mind. One night during the week, when I got home, there was an invitation to my high school friend Liam's engagement party on the desk. Liam and I didn't talk much in class, but we worked at the same part-time job and often went home together. To my surprise, the venue was Lesso. If I received an invitation, It likely means all our high school classmates were invited. I definitely didn't want to go. I decided to send a gift to Liam's home instead. As I was about to, Mark will not attend on the invitation. Olivia suggested, let's go together. Olivia hadn't met me until after I started my business, so she didn't know what I was like in high school. I want to meet Mark's friends. Her eyes sparkled so much that I couldn't say no. On the day of the engagement party, I told the staff at Luso not to mention that I'm the CEO, as I didn't want to be probed by my classmates. Olivia picked out a fancy suit for me to wear. The party was on a Sunday, and since our daughters were also free, we attended as a family. When we arrived, many of my classmates were already there. It felt odd to see the familiar staff and made me a bit nervous. Mark, it's been so long. Thanks for coming. Congratulations on your wedding. It's great to see you. Liam, whom I hadn't seen since high school graduation, was as refreshing as ever, and his wife seemed kind. While we were eating, women gathered around Olivia. Are you Olivia? I always see your SNS, they said, buzzing about her metal allergy-friendly jewelry shop. My wife is popular everywhere, shining brightly. Then Lucy joined them. Why did you marry this guy? Her cheeks were red, perhaps from drinking. Lucy flatly sat next to me. He's always been poor and unattractive and unfashionable. I can't believe he's married. Is that so? I don't know much about the past, Olivia replied with a troubled look. Lucy asked the surrounding classmates. He was super unfashionable, right? There must have been someone better, right? You make so much from your jewelry. Could you please stop bothering my wife? Why? Lucy bragged about her high-end accessories and the wallet her husband gave her. While she was engrossed in the conversation, she turned to me and said, my husband is an elite department head. I'd love to see your lowly workplace. Haha. I was furious that Lucy could say such awful things in front of our daughters. Thinking of leaving, I grabbed my things to say goodbye to Liam. But then, my husband's workplace. Let me introduce you, Olivia said loudly. Everyone in the venue turned to look at us. We headed to the top floor of the hotel in the elevator. The office is located on the upper floors where I and the full-time employees work. The elevator ride with Lucy, Liam, his wife, and a few classmates felt suffocating. My wife's back, standing in front of me, seemed larger than usual. We arrived at the CEO's office. Everyone was confused, asking, what's going on? My secretary, who rushed over, unlocked the door. As we entered the spacious office, exclamations of wow were heard. Mark is the CEO of Luso, Olivia announced. She did so with such pride, as if she herself were the CEO. The collective gasp of wow from everyone was directed at me. I felt the same wow towards Olivia. Olivia, who is usually calm and never gets angry, had a rare stern look on her face. No one who insults my husband will be forgiven, even if they are a mom friend, Olivia said. I wasn't really insulting him, Lucy said, sweating and looking flustered. All the funding for my jewelry brand, our living expenses, and our daughter's tuition fees have been paid by my husband, Olivia said, clutching my hand and pressing close to me. Her hand was trembling. Was she mustering all her courage to protect me? That's why, even though everyone says I'm amazing, the truly amazing person is my wife. The CEO's office fell silent. Even the main couple, Liam and his wife, froze. I felt sorry, but at the same time, I also felt a sense of satisfaction. What's that? Showing off, Olivia? You're getting unusually passionate, Lucy continued, trying to deflect. Olivia puffed her cheeks and pulled my hand, saying, let's just leave it be. Just when the party atmosphere turned awkward, the host guided everyone to the pool area. This is my favorite space. Luso's pool is filled with amenities enjoyable even for babies. Actually, it was my mother's idea. When I was a baby, we spent a lot of time together, but there weren't many places to play since I couldn't run or swim yet. It's the period when you can be closest to your child, yet there's not much to experience. Hearing her say this made me feel lonely, so I made sure we had plenty of kids' pools. The children of my classmates, including my daughters, changed into their swimsuits and played to their heart's content. Feeling responsible for ruining the party atmosphere, I treated everyone to ice cream. Looks like CEO Parker's secret is out, the shop staff said, chuckling as they approached me. More like my wife let it slip. Ah, your wife's love for CEO Parker is incredible. It's already the talk among the staff. Though I dislike gossip, the story of Olivia defending me spreading around wasn't unwelcome. Seeing Lucy, she was eating the ice cream I treated, chatting with classmates. That sight reignited my anger. Isn't Olivia super rude? We went to the same school, but she's always had a bad way of speaking. That's the worst, complaining about a mom friend she's usually close with. Is this also my fault? But I wanted to say something back. As I approached, thinking this, a group of running boys crashed into Lucy, causing the ice cream she was holding to fall on her dress. Ah, my favorite dress. Lucy tried to wipe off the ice cream stain, pulling a handkerchief from her bag. Simultaneously, her wallet flew out of her bag and into the pool. Lucy reached out for her wallet in a frenzy. Splash! Lucy fell into the pool, causing water to splash everywhere. Staff members and a few classmates rushed to the pool. All the classmates quietly watched the scene. With her back to everyone, Lucy exited the pool and was led by the staff to the fitting room. To turn around the tense atmosphere, the host started a bingo competition. As soon as the bingo started, everyone got engrossed as if nothing had happened, eagerly following the numbers. After the bingo, Olivia and I went to Liam and his wife's table. I can't believe Mark is the CEO of this hotel. I'm glad you chose Luso for the party venue. Sorry for the awkward atmosphere though. It's my fault for inviting Lucy. Don't worry about it. We had a great time reminiscing about our days working part-time jobs. Liam saying he missed me after I left the job was really nice to hear. I wish I had kept in touch better. Maybe we could have been closer. Seeing Liam's wife in her dress, I was reminded of my own wedding with Olivia. Originally, Olivia worked as a hall staff in Luso's restaurant. One day, while I was cleaning the restaurant, Olivia offered me her own spray cleaner, saying, "This spray works better at cleaning off dirt." Unaware that I was the CEO, she simply wanted to help. "Don't you use the hotel's cleaner?" "The hotel's cleaner works fine, but don't you want things to be extra shiny?" she said, smiling broadly as she explained about the spray. It was amusing and interesting that a part-time worker would bring her own cleaning spray. I could feel her love for Luso. Without revealing that I was the CEO, I enjoyed chatting with Olivia a few times a week while we cleaned together. I even introduced Olivia's recommended spray into the hotel's cleaning routine. One evening after work, I invited Olivia to a suite room in the hotel. Olivia was surprised by the luxurious meal, bouquet, and gift. I took out a ring and proposed to her, confessing my feelings at the same time. That was when I first revealed that I was the CEO. "I have been so rude to CEO Parker all this time. I love you for being honest and hardworking," Olivia said. After thinking it over, Olivia said, "I'd love to," and placed the ring on her finger. As I was lost in these fine memories, Lucy returned to the venue. She had changed into a dress sold at the hotel shop. Gathering everyone's attention, she walked straight towards me. "Olivia is really the worst, so tactless and selfish. I'll tell the mom friends about this next week." "My wife did nothing wrong. The one lacking manners is you." Lucy's downfall was merely the result of her own actions coming back to her. The room dimmed for the cake-cutting ceremony. Focusing on Liam and his wife, we gathered around the cake, capturing the moment of cutting in photos. Our daughters were delighted as the sliced cake was served. Then the final event, opening presents. Liam and his wife began opening the presents they received from everyone. They reacted happily to various gifts like bath bombs, dishes, and aromas. Then they opened a present chosen by Olivia and me. It was a set of slightly upscale seasonings. "Wow, I'm so happy. I love cooking and will use this every day." "That's great. You were always good at cooking, even when we were working at the pub." Lucy muttered under her breath. "Is that all from the CEO? She's relentlessly unpleasant." "Actually, we have one more gift," I announced, borrowing a microphone to stand in front of everyone. "A stay in Luso suite room. Why don't you stay tonight?" "Really? Are you serious? That's awesome. It's a wedding gift." Everyone in the venue clapped. "Way to go, CEO Parker. Luso is the best. I want to have my engagement party at Luso too." Voices chimed in. I could tell even without looking that I probably had a triumphant look on my face. I just wanted to see Lucy's frustrated face. I asked the staff to prepare a sweetbroom. Sorry to take up your time. Let's open Lucy's gift next. Mine can wait. Don't you all want to see it? I asked the crowd, and they responded with a yes. I wondered what luxurious item Lucy, who had called my gift lame, had chosen. Liam and his wife opened it in front of everyone. It was a set of matching pajamas. Thank you, we'll use them. A highly popular limited edition pajama set from a high-end brand. Following the seasonings, this would have surely elicited applause, but it couldn't compare to a stay in the hotel's sweetbroom. Typical Lucy, always with good taste, I said, deliberately praising her. I didn't want to stoop to her level by criticizing her. Lucy was left speechless. With the presents opened, the party came to a close. Are you sure we can stay? Thank you so much. Of course, if anyone should be thankful, it's me. The bond with my wife deepened. Though I had wanted to keep my presidency a secret, I realized it could actually bring happiness to others as a strength. And maybe, just maybe, I had managed to outdo Lucy a bit. We were taking the commemorative photo in front of the hotel on our way back. Then, outside the entrance, there was a man waving at us, heading in our direction. He was wearing sweatpants and sandals with hair that looked like he had just woken up. Who does he belong to? Everyone murmured, looking around. Lucy, stop it, she protested as the man approached. What's this? You said your clothes were wet, so I rushed to bring you a change. Oh, it's already over. Cut this, Lucy's husband, the supposed elite department head. His fashion was the complete opposite of high-brand lover Lucy, decidedly more down-to-earth, practically loungewear, or rather, it looked more like something one would wear around the house. Seeing Lime, Lucy's husband said, "Congratulations on your wedding. My wife has been in your care." I handed him my business card. You're the hotel CEO. Well, that's amazing. Sorry, I don't have my card on me, he apologized. You're a department head, right? Actually, my company went bankrupt, and I'm currently a freelancer. This unexpected revelation made it feel as if time had stopped for the classmates gathered for the photo. Lucy's face turned red, and she remained silent. Mark, our daughters are in the same class, right? Unfortunately, we might have to transfer schools, he shared, hinting at their struggle to find work and pay rent. Lucy's family is barely making ends meet with help from her parents, and they feel guilty enough to consider moving to a smaller apartment. However, the clothes Lucy wears always look expensive. The gifts she gives must cost tens of thousands of dollars each. That's unfortunate. Lucy always dresses so stylishly. Your clothes look expensive. She hunts for brand items on flea market apps. Shut up, just stop. Lucy, tears streaming, grasped her husband's arm. Even I could tell that was a bombshell statement. I just meant she's good at shopping. The worst? Don't come home tonight. A sudden argument broke out between the couple. I wished they would stop, especially in front of the newlyweds. Liam met his wife, and Lucy, in anger, left in the car her husband had arrived in. Left behind, her husband stood alone, looking lost. Would you like to have coffee? I offered to speak with Lucy's husband. After graduating from high school, Lucy wanted to pursue modeling again and joined a companion agency. However, it was difficult to get into a major agency, so she gave up on modeling and became a receptionist in an office building. That's when she met her current husband at a mixer. Her husband appears to be quite timid and fell for Lucy's confident demeanor. However, he realized after they got married that what he thought was confidence was actually just selfishness. Their child's difficulty integrating with mom friends led to multiple school transfers. Despite financial struggles, Lucy couldn't let go of her pride and relied on her parents for financial support. Since the company went bankrupt, instead of cutting back, she's been spending even more recklessly. Apparently, she even started dipping into the children's birthday money savings. Hearing such a tragic story made me feel sorry for her husband. Have you considered divorce? I don't want to be separated from my daughters, so I'm desperately job hunting. A part-time job salary is insufficient for family support. To lead a normal life, a decent income is necessary. You were a manager before, right? In what field? A menu design company for restaurants. An idea struck me. Would you like to work at Lusso as a full-time employee? Really? Can I? I have been thinking about expanding Luso with a cafe. Most cafes and restaurants offer limited kids menus. A wider variety of balanced meals would surely make both moms and kids happy. However, due to staffing shortages, I had postponed this plan. I'd like your help with the cafe expansion. Could you lend us your knowledge and experience? Lucy's husband immediately responded with a yes. I wanted to help him not just as Lucy's husband but as a man and a father. Ironically, this felt like the best revenge against Lucy. Months later, Lucy's husband thrived at the company, leading the cafe project from operations to menu design. Since the engagement party, Lucy stopped talking to Olivia, though their children remained friends. Repairing adult relationships is hard. They moved from a high-rise apartment to a 50-year-old apartment building. The international school requires considerable expenses, so her husband's salary is primarily spent on their child's needs. For me, not much has changed. If there's anything different since the engagement party, it's that my love for Olivia has deepened. Ever since our child was born, she mentioned how dealing with mom friends can be tough because you have to conform. Yet she stood up for me in front of those mom friends. Being able to marry Olivia and having our daughter are the greatest joys of my life. And being able to lead such a wonderful life is also all thanks to my mother. After a long while, I took a week off and went back to my family's home with my family. The concept of home used to be the norm for me, and hotels felt special. But at some point, that feeling reversed. Next time, I'll create a hotel that feels like a home away from home. My name is Robert Stannon. I'm a salesman at a company that's ingrained in the local community. This year, I'll be turning 28, but this city isn't where I grew up. I left my hometown as soon as I graduated high school and made a beeline for this place. I'm genuinely thankful to the boss who hired a high school graduate like me and helped me grow into the man I am now. Back in the day, I had quite a reputation as a troublemaker in my hometown. You could say I was a bit of a wild child. I had a thing for motorcycles, and I was pretty darn good in a fight too. Or rather, I guess I just hated losing. After all, you can't lose a fight if you don't admit defeat. However, my wild antics definitely caused some headaches for my folks and teachers back home. These days, I'm all reformed and a respectable member of society. I don't go back to my hometown, but each time I reach out, I can tell my parents breathe a little easier. I've even started to send them a little money now and then. One day, after coming back from a client's place, I got a call from the boss. Apparently, he'd been waiting for me. I made my way to the boss's office, where the ever-white-haired man greeted me. I apologized for keeping him waiting as I lowered my head in apology. The boss just smiled and said, "No problem. This boss of mine, he's one of the good guys and is well known even in this town. He's pretty invested in community development and knows a lot of folks. People come to him for advice on all sorts of things, not just work-related, and he's always been incredibly caring. Despite having no ties to him, he took me under his wing like I was his own son." I was motioned to sit on the guest sofa. As I sat down, the boss started to talk. "Sorry for being so sudden, but Robert, what do you think about matchmaking?" Huh? Caught off guard by the sudden proposal, all I could do was let out a puzzled sound. I mean, it's true my social life lacks a feminine touch, mainly because I haven't felt the need for it. To set the record straight though, it's not like I can't attract the opposite sex. It's just that I haven't felt like dating anyone. I still think I'm in the middle of getting my life back on track. I just wasn't in the mood to get a girlfriend. But what the boss suggested was matchmaking. This wasn't just about introducing her, it was about setting me up for marriage. Moreover, the introduction came from the boss, who was my benefactor. I felt anxious, wondering if there was any way out for me. I was trying to think of a way to decline, but my mind was all over the place, especially at a time like this. "Listen, she's the daughter of the owner of Harris Enterprises. You've seen her a few times, haven't you? She shows up at Chamber of Commerce parties too." I'd seen the daughter of the head of Harris Enterprises before. She was well known in this part of town, but not because she's cute. She's famous for never smiling. It sounds good to call her a cool beauty, but she has zero sociability. Her beautiful eyes and well-proportioned face stood out even at the Chamber of Commerce parties. I'd always been friendly with Harris Enterprises and the boss, and I wondered if maybe the boss couldn't refuse them. She is about the same age as you. The president said he wanted me to introduce a good young man, and Robert, your face immediately came to mind. He handed over the marriage interview photo with a smile. When I opened the old-fashioned marriage interview photo, there was the daughter of the Harris Enterprises boss, dressed in a formal dress, sitting with a composed look on her face. She was definitely pretty and cute, but I thought I wouldn't like such an unsociable woman. I have my ideals too, a homey cute girl with a smile. I like girls who eat well. The girl in the photo doesn't look like she eats at all. She looks so out of this world that I thought she might be eating mist or something. I think I'm not worthy. I tried desperately to decline with a non-committal phrase. What do you mean? Are you saying my eyes are clouded? There's no one more suitable than you is there. The boss showed no signs of backing down. In the end, I was overruled by the boss's "Why don't you at least meet her?" and I agreed to the marriage interview. Seeing the boss's happy face, I started to feel a pain in my stomach. The date for the marriage interview was set immediately, and I bought a new suit with the money the boss gave me. I wanted to decline the suit, but the boss told me not to destroy his reputation, so I ended up buying a new one. So on the day of the marriage interview, I entered a high-class restaurant in a brand new suit. I had a sharp pain in my stomach from nervousness since morning. I hadn't told my parents about the marriage interview because I planned to decline somehow. The boss was sitting with me as a substitute for my parents. After a while of sitting, the landlady of the restaurant showed up, and with the announcement that your party has arrived, the face of Harris Enterprises boss appeared. Behind the president, his daughter in a formal dress followed. Seeing her up close, she had skin like porcelain and a beauty that was somehow out of this world. I was taken aback. Sorry to keep you waiting. This is my daughter. Her name is Nora. President Harris introduced her. She slightly retracted her chin and nodded to me. Of course, there was no smile on her face. Rather, I was startled by the sharpness of her gaze when she quietly looked at me. In the end, the marriage interview was just the bosses talking while we focused on eating. It was a very uncomfortable space. The meal was finally over with the dessert, and the two bosses left the table together, saying, "Now it's up to the young people." It's a common sight at marriage interviews. As soon as the two of them left, the girl who had been silent until now opened her mouth. "Do you want to get married?" Her sudden aggressiveness made me momentarily angry. Who talks like that? Always take the fight if it's offered to you. That's how I've lived thus far. If someone is spoiling for a fight, I won't back down either. Her icy gaze stabbed at me, clearly pissed off at my attitude. The marriage interview was your parents' idea, wasn't it? You could have put it more tactfully. You have been staying silent throughout the meeting. Are you trying to embarrass my boss? Think about it. Once I start talking, it's hard to stop. I expressed my distaste for her attitude. Acting high and mighty, who do you think you are, living a life that gives you the right to lecture others? We both seemed to have confrontational personalities. After a huge argument that caused the landlady to intervene, the marriage interview ended. I figured she would be the one to reject me. Even so, she was a strong-willed president's daughter. I went back to my apartment and thought about her. I was mad, but there was a part of me that couldn't hate her, leaving me feeling unsettled. Days passed since the marriage interview, and I hadn't received any rejection. Instead, I was called into the boss's office during my lunch break to be told that there was a date invitation from her. I was genuinely shocked and taken aback. After such a huge fight, her not rejecting me was surprising. It could be some kind of prank. I left the boss's office feeling like I'd been had. In my hand was a note with the date and time of the next meeting. I needed a drink to deal with this. As soon as I got back to the office, I asked a colleague to join me for drinks that night. That evening, after getting the news about the date from the boss, I went out drinking with my colleagues at a bar. The story of the marriage interview had apparently become office gossip, and my colleagues seemed genuinely interested. I amusingly shared with them how I had a major fight with the president's daughter at the marriage interview. My colleagues jokingly warned me, "You're going to get fired," and I felt a chill thinking it might not be that far-fetched. To shake off that anxiety, I got seriously drunk, which was something I hadn't done in a long time. A junior female colleague was doing her best to support my drunken self as we staggered towards the subway station. I spotted Nora Harris in the crowd. Our eyes locked instantly. Then, expressionlessly, she flashed me the middle finger. In response to her blatant provocation, My drunken head heated up. I was pulled along by my junior female colleague as I wobbled. Even as I was being led, I couldn't take my eyes off Nora. Noticing my gaze, Nora nonchalantly lifted her skirt to flash her pure white panties at me. I was captivated by their whiteness. Just as I heard, "Watch out, you're going to hurt yourself," I crashed into a corner wall. I saw stars as I banged my head on the wall. "Ouch," I grumbled, clutching my throbbing head that I had hit hard. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Nora grinning wickedly. What the hell? I couldn't help but grumble to myself. She can smile after all. However, strangely, I didn't feel angry. I found myself starting to enjoy Nora's audacious personality. The date that I was dreading somehow became something I was looking forward to. On the day of our date, I still had a bandage plastered on my forehead. Despite this, Nora's expression didn't change at all. As soon as we sat down side by side on a park bench, Nora repeated the words she had said during our initial meeting. "Do you actually want to get married?" Hearing the same phrase again, I felt there was a catch to this matchmaking. I thought that she might have a compelling reason to get married. "If there's a reason, I can help. Would you mind sharing it with me honestly?" She looked at me with eyes wide with surprise. From my serious expression, she understood I wasn't joking. After a deep breath, she began to speak. This marriage interview, it seems, was something she had requested to her father. Apparently, she wanted to prove herself to him. She'd have been in a long-term relationship with her first love, but she'd have been betrayed by him and her best friend. Betrayed by her boyfriend and her best friend, the deeply wounded Nora wanted to get married to show them up. She wanted to show them that she didn't need them. That was the reason why she was rushing into this matchmaking. Her story left me a bit flabbergasted, but I also felt sympathy for her. Being betrayed by people she trusted, being left alone suddenly is hard. I am a daughter of a president, so it'd be like you're marrying up, right? I'll also treat your parents well. If you want, we can even divorce when it suits you. Her face was dead serious as she desperately tried to persuade me. I guess she's this desperate because she still can't forget her first love. Suddenly, I found myself feeling a strange affection for her. So much for her cool beauty persona. Isn't she just a girl who can't forget her first love? I wouldn't mind going out of my way for her. After hearing her whole story, I found myself thinking like that. All right, I'll do it. Let's get married. At my response, her face lit up. Thank you. A faint smile played on her lips as she held back her tears. The disbalance in her expression was so beautiful that I found myself at a loss for words. It just hit me how sudden moments that capture your heart can be. The talk of marriage moved ahead swiftly. After all, Nora wanted to get married as soon as possible. When I reported my plans to marry to the boss, he was happier than when his own son got married. "I want to pay a visit to your parents," she said. When I was about to start looking for a wedding venue, Nora said so with a serious face. I hadn't been back to my hometown or my parents' house in a long time. For me, my hometown was a place I had essentially abandoned. Only embarrassing memories remained. I was a little afraid to take her back to such a place. I didn't want to deliberately show her parts of myself that I disliked, but she said it's a necessary step and wouldn't take no for an answer. In a way, she almost forcefully decided on my return home. When we actually got there, I was surprised to find everything looking so familiar. The family home I so disliked returning to now felt incredibly nostalgic. Seeing my parents again after a long time, they had aged more than I imagined and looked noticeably smaller. My mom teared up at the sight of me, and when I introduced Nora as my future wife, she sobbed. She was overwhelmed with joy. My silent dad also seemed happy about my return, albeit in his own quiet way. After the greeting with my parents, I took her to something she had insisted on seeing during our visit. I led her behind the family's barn. There her eyes lit up, and she exclaimed, "This is amazing. My motorcycle was just left out there next to the barn." Surprisingly, she loves motorcycles and has a license for large ones. She'd heard about me riding a motorcycle in my student days and had asked to see it. It's not a big one, but it's a bike I cherished. She stared at it for a while and then said, "Thank you." After that, I decided to show Nora around the neighborhood. "So this is where you grew up," she said with deep emotion, looking down on the river from the embankment. Compared to the city where she grew up, this must have seemed like a peaceful countryside. Everything might be new to her. After deciding to get married and meeting a few times, Nora's expression gradually softened. She would even flash a small smile at me. If we build a home together, will she smile more? As I thought about creating a warm home, I felt a bit foolish. She's marrying me not because she loves me, I remembered, but I guess it's okay because I'm in love with her. Hey, is that you, Robert? A hoarse voice called out to me, probably from too much drink. Turning around, I saw an old friend from my rebellious days, Steve, looking at me with a surprised expression. On either side of Steve, young punks still in their prime were standing by. It seemed Steve couldn't manage to reform himself after all. Yes, but who are you again? I replied. The heat in the room instantly surged. I figured he was a mate from my reckless past, but his features had changed so much I couldn't recognize him. The signs of a rough life were etched onto his face. You think you can just waltz back here after all this time, acting high and mighty like the old days? He glared and threatened me, but I wasn't scared in the slightest. My only worry was whether my girlfriend, who was with me, would be in any harm. As we locked eyes, Nora peeked her head out between us. So it's true you were a badass, she said, starting to laugh, clutching her stomach. Seeing her laugh so freely, both Steve and I were taken aback, losing momentum. Who's this you're with? She's the woman I'm going to marry. I see. Just like that, a peaceful expression fell over Steve's face as he looked at Nora. It seems like your life has been moving on just fine. Hearing that, I remembered clearly who this guy was. The moment I realized, I froze on the spot. He was my ex-girlfriend's brother. I wanted to say something, but the words stuck in my throat, and I couldn't get anything out. While I was frozen in place, he gave Nora a gentle pat on the shoulder and smiled. Be happy with Robert. I had a sister too. She's not in this world anymore, but do it for her sake as well. Leaving those words behind, he started to walk towards his car parked under the levee. The way he slouched slightly as he walked looked like a testament to the past he was carrying. As I stood there in a daze, Nora took my arm and smiled. Should we go visit your ex-girlfriend and your buddy? At her words, I shuddered. I wondered how she knew. My mind spinning, I left my hometown because of a motorcycle accident. I loved motorcycles since my rebellious days, and in my youthful folly, I thought reckless riding was cool. Back then, my girlfriend was a year younger, and she often rode behind me on my motorcycle. The night of the accident, I was at the police station because of a fight I got into during the day, along with my parents and my school teacher. When she heard I was taken to the station, she panicked. She was riding on the back of my boy's bike to come pick me up from the station when the accident happened. It wasn't because they were riding recklessly. The driver of the compact car that hit their motorcycle was an unlicensed high schooler. He was a kid just like us, up to no good, and apparently he fled the scene without even calling an ambulance. When I was finally released from the police station, I remember being punched out of the blue by her brother at the entrance. When I finally saw her and my buddy in the cold morgue, I couldn't even cry. I was left in a state of utter disbelief, emotionless, unable to do anything but gaze at the two of them. Afterward, as soon as I graduated, I left my hometown. I left everything behind, including my home, to start afresh. To my surprise, Nora seemed to know all about this. My dad would have definitely looked into my potential match, she said with a hint of regret. It made me wonder, knowing all that, why she would agree to this matchmaking. Knowing my past, how did this match even happen? By all accounts, I was a nuisance, wasn't I? Did her father not consider the harm it could do to his daughter? Times change. My dad understands that, and so do I, she retorted, sounding a bit upset. I scratched my head, realizing the depth of Nora's father's understanding. Perhaps being raised by such a parent is what made Nora as compassionate as she is. Let me meet her and his best friend for the first time. I visited the graves of my ex-girlfriend and best friend. Nora stood next to me, her hands folded in silent prayer. When I asked her what she'd been talking about, she said, I was informing them about our marriage. With a chuckle, I declared that I was taking Robert. With a serious face, Nora walked ahead, leaving me stunned. She turned back and reached out to me. I took her hand. We held hands for the first time. Her hand was slightly sweaty, perhaps from the nervousness. Her face was calm as always. When I gently swung our hands, she looked down and gave a small, shy smile. Her smile was endearing. I wished she could open up to me sooner. And so we walked hand in hand down the Sunset Road, lost in thought. 6 months after greeting my parents, we were finally on the eve of our wedding. Nora was still a grad student and surprisingly busier than I was with my job. "You're free to do what you want on your last night as a bachelor, you know," Nora told me at the cafe we were meeting at. My coworkers had invited me for drinks, but I wasn't particularly excited about my last bachelor's night. I was a little worried that Nora might get cold feet at the last moment. Nora, unaware of my feelings, seemed slightly upset. "I think she feels guilty for pushing me into this marriage." "You? How awful." Nora's face fell as she raised her voice. "Do you know them? It's my ex, Tom." As I turned to the entrance, I saw a man in a suit and a trendy-looking girl entering the cave. When the man spotted Nora, a distasteful grin spread across his face. He walked straight over to our table. "Long time no see. So you're getting married, huh?" He talked as if we were close, but his eyes weren't smiling. He was a good-looking guy, but there was a hint of danger about him. "Tomorrow is our wedding. It's a small ceremony for my family only. This is Robert, he's going to be my husband," Nora introduced. I gave a slight bow and muttered a quick, "Hi." The man looked down at me as though I was something disgusting. The girl with him looked anxious. "So you're being shipped off to a husband so soon? Is this an arranged marriage or just a move to get back at me?" Pathetic, despite his provocative words, her expression remained unchanged. She cast her eyes down, seemingly ignoring the man's harsh words. Even if Nora could shrug it off, I couldn't. I glared at the man from my seat. My attitude seemed to make him falter slightly. I don't know where he comes from, but I'm not about to be bested by some man who's probably never thrown a punch in his life. "Are you trying to pick a fight with my wife or with me?" "I don't back down from a fight, you know." "What are you going to do?" "So what if it's an arranged marriage? Nora is the woman I chose. She's too good for you." When I growled back, Tom's face went pale. Leela, who fell in love with Tom, pulled the man's sleeve and said in a low voice, "Stop it. Really, you're going to marry this unclean man? Don't expect to be happy." Tom spat out a petty parting shot, then hurried out of the cafe as though he was fleeing. Nora watched him go, her face stunned. Then she turned to look at me intently. I felt strangely uncomfortable under her gaze. Unable to endure Nora's scrutiny, I turned away. Ignoring my discomfort, she placed her hands on my cheeks and turned my face towards her. "Do you love me?" She looked deeply into my eyes and quietly asked. The question caught me off guard. I started to panic, my body temperature rose dramatically. At the same time, an irrational anger welled up in me. "What a clueless woman," my words slipped out in embarrassed frustration. She frowned and gave my cheek a firm pinch. "Ouch, ouch, stop it. I just like you, okay?" "I never said you had to like me back." The pinching fingers finally released me, but my moment of relief was short-lived as she swiftly slapped both her hands on my cheeks. "Why do I have to endure this?" I glared at Nora, my eyes watering from the pain in my cheeks. "How clueless can you be, you thick-headed man?" Surprised by her sudden confession, I pinched my own cheek. I wanted to make sure I wasn't dreaming. My cheek did hurt, and she was standing in front of me, looking angry, and she seemed to be on the verge of tears. Making the bride cry the day before the wedding was unforgivable. "I'm sorry," I apologized. I realized that I was the clueless one. She had been giving me signals all this time, and I had missed them. Nora stood there, her face pouting. Tomorrow she would be standing next to me in a pure white wedding dress. I was glad I could confirm her feelings the day before our wedding. We might have our fair share of arguments, but we'd be a happy couple indeed. Nora and I were a perfect match. I was at a resort known for its amazing cuisine when the executive chef suddenly collapsed. A commotion ensued, and I couldn't help but be concerned. I rushed towards the kitchen. The ambulance arrived quickly, and we were relieved to see the chef conscious. However, another problem arose. The sous chef was also missing. With both head chefs unavailable, the restaurant worried their dinner service would be hampered. We needed to apologize to the guests. At that moment, the manager approached me. "Please, we need your help," she said. "Me? Really?" I was taken aback by the sudden request. Despite my fear, I couldn't ignore someone in need. I nodded in agreement. Little did I know that after having a beautiful guest taste my cooking, she would approach me, wanting to talk. That night would end up being unforgettable. My name is Ethan Walsh. I was on a solo trip to a resort famous for its food. Working in a hotel myself, staying at other accommodation facilities always felt more exciting. The surreal scenery and experiences were enough to make me forget my troubles. I sighed, took a photo of the charming resort's exterior, and walked through the Northern curtain. A male receptionist smiled and greeted me. "Welcome." "Hello, I have a reservation under the name of Ethan Walsh." "Mr. Walsh, we've been expecting you." As I was checking in, a tall woman approached me from behind. "Ethan, it's been a while. I've been waiting for you." "Taylor, long time no see. You look well." She was a vivacious woman with striking features, the manager and a former colleague. She had trained at my workplace before taking over this resort from her parents. She had invited me to visit, and I finally took her up on the offer. "I'm getting the hang of running things as the manager, but it's harder than I thought," she said. "Not just cooking, but also managing the business." "How about you, Ethan? Still keeping busy?" "Yes, as usual." "That's good to hear. You must relax today. I'm confident in our cuisine. I'm sure you'll be satisfied." "Thanks, I'm looking forward to it. I've prepared a special room for you." I followed her, pondering whether I managed to smile properly. Was I worrying my old colleague? The room had a garden view, and the pleasant scent of grass was soothing. I thought about getting a massage until dinner time when the far end of the hallway became noisy. "Taylor, you're here. What's the matter? What's all the commotion?" "The executive chef, Mr. Woodhill, has collapsed." "What? Is everything going to be okay?" I headed towards the kitchen, concerned. "Mr. Woodhill, hang in there." "I'm okay." "You're not okay. Is the ambulance on the way?" "It's been called. They said about 10 minutes. Just as the staff said, the ambulance arrived. Thankfully, it wasn't serious since he was conscious, but another problem had arisen. "Ma'am, about the dinner service." "Yes, with both head chefs unavailable, the restaurant is concerned that their dinner service will be hampered. Today, a travel agency was planning to tour our resort. If this falls through, it could be the end for us." "I understand, but there's nothing we can do. We'll have to apologize to the guests." "Oh, that's right." Taylor approached me. "Ethan, please, I need your help." "Me? Really?" The reason Taylor thought of me was because I, too, am a cook. But it's a different story to serve guests at someone else's resort. Am I really the right person for this? "Don't worry, we'll have other chefs to support you. You're the only one here with skills comparable to the head chefs." "But, Ethan, please, I'll take full responsibility." I had always been indebted to Taylor. If she was in trouble, I couldn't just stand by. "All right, I'll do my best to match the head chef's standards. Taylor, feel free to taste and give feedback as much as you want." "Oh, thank you." Then I was taken to the kitchen and introduced to the other chefs as a cook trusted by the manager. With the resort fully booked for the day, the kitchen was busier than usual. I was initially bewildered, but I'm a professional. Once I checked the prepared soup stock and recipes, I got the hang of it. I adjusted the seasoning and texture according to the guests, softening flavors and textures for the elderly and cutting vegetables and meat into smaller pieces for children. With the help of the team, I kept cooking dish after dish. Dinner time was from 5 to 7 p.m., including preparations. I spent about 5 frantic hours in the kitchen. Before I knew it, it was 8 p.m. We made it through somehow. Exhausted, I slumped down in the break room next to the kitchen. This must be what they mean by too tired to lift a finger. Working in a resort's kitchen is tough, I thought, sipping the tea Taylor had made for me. But there was a sense of fulfillment in revisiting this old sensation. "Thank you so much. I'm sorry to have taken up your time off." "Of course. Your stay tonight is on the house." "No, that's too much. Still, your skills are impressive. You managed to handle new ingredients so well. The dishes tonight might have been even better than usual. Could you teach our chef sometime?" "I'm not that great." "Thanks to you, the travel agency representatives were pleased. They said they'd include our resort in their official tours. This is all thanks to you, Ethan. I really appreciate it. Excuse me for interrupting your conversation." A server entered the break room and noticed me. "Excuse me, one of the guests has requested to see the head chef." Me? Was the food not to their liking, or did they realize it wasn't the head chef's cooking? The staff didn't seem upset, so I relaxed and headed to the private dining room. Seated at the table was a refined-looking woman, seemingly around my age. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. "Was it your cooking?" Yes, it was. It was so delicious. I was moved and just had to express my gratitude. "I'm sorry for calling you out so suddenly." "I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me." "Oh, Savannah," Taylor called out to the guest from behind. "Savannah, good evening." "Good evening, Taylor. I'm glad you could come. Ethan, this young lady is the sister of a friend of mine." "I'm Savannah Williams. Nice to meet you." "I'm Ethan Walsh." "Savannah, Ethan here isn't the head chef. He's a former colleague from my previous job." "Does that mean you work at Cherry Blossom Hotel?" "Yes, he's the sous chef there." "Impressive for someone so young, right?" "Indeed. I'm the sous chef at a one-star restaurant." "But—" but suddenly Miss Williams's expression brightened. Her hands clasped together as her cheeks flushed. "Wonderful. Cherry Blossom Hotel is famous for guests staying specifically for the restaurant, right? I'm actually a cook myself. I've been in a slump and unsure about the flavors I'm seeking." But then, standing up, she took my hand. "After tasting your cooking, I'm convinced that this is the path I should follow." "Really? That much?" "Yes. Until now, my cooking has been by the book, very rigid. I didn't know how to express originality. Your cooking was different from anything I've experienced before. I know it's a lot to ask, but could you please be my mentor? I have so much I want to learn from you." Being praised like that, it's impossible not to feel happy. Since she's an acquaintance of Taylor, well, it's fine. Besides, I want to hear her story. I want to listen to her experiences and learn for myself. "Thank you. I'd love to hear more about your experiences, Miss Williams." "I'm so glad to hear that." Afterward, Miss Williams and I, having secured a private room, had a lively discussion about cooking. She said she was still training, but from our conversation, her knowledge was impeccable, and she had solid experience. I thought she was more than ready to work professionally, but as I heard earlier, she seemed to be struggling to find her direction. I'd be happy if I could help alleviate her worries even a little. As we talked over drinks, the conversation flowed effortlessly, and before I knew it, it was morning. I somehow ended up back in my room without remembering how I got there. I drank so much that I couldn't recall. No, my head is too painful to even try to remember. When was the last time I had a hangover like this? Lying on the bed, presumably prepared by the chambermaid, I stared blankly at the ceiling. Last night, let's see, I got along well with Miss Williams. We talked about cooking, and then, no, I can't remember. I noticed a coffee pot on the desk and decided to have some coffee to clear my head. Dragging my heavy head and body, I made it to the desk and saw a note. I didn't remember placing it there. Picking it up, it was written in a woman's handwriting. "Thank you. I won't forget last night. It was wonderful. Looking forward to seeing you again. Savannah Williams." What? My drowsiness and drunkenness vanished, and I looked at the note again. The content remained the same. This was a note left by Miss Williams. But wait, what does this note mean? I looked down at myself and checked the bed, but nothing seemed amiss. But what does this note mean? Did I do something wrong? If I had crossed a line, even if it was due to alcohol, I couldn't just brush it off. I needed to apologize properly. I quickly got dressed and headed to the lobby. Taylor was there at the reception. "Taylor, oh, Ethan, good morning." "Good morning. Where's Miss Williams's room?" "Savannah. She left early this morning." "Morning? What? Is something wrong?" I just have something I need to tell her." "I'll contact her for you. I'll ask her to get in touch with you." "Thank you." I felt like I was barely alive. What have I done to such a beautiful woman? What if she had a boyfriend or a husband? I spent the day troubled and then headed home. The next day, back at work, a different problem awaited me. "Ethan, what's with this broth? Is something wrong with it? Don't you see it's completely different from the standard?" Back at the hotel kitchen, Chef Anderson was yelling at me. After the former executive chef left to start his own place, Chef Anderson from one of our partner hotels joined us and had been giving me a hard time. I told Taylor everything was going well, but that was a lie. Ever since he arrived, I felt marginalized. Originally, I was highly regarded and trusted by the former chef and the hotel owner. I think it was because of my personality. I had always enjoyed cooking as a hobby before I turned professional, and after becoming a chef, my passion exceeded just a hobby. With the network of people I built and the financial freedom I gained, my culinary research flourished. The more my world expanded, the more ideas I had, and my growing skills contributed to menu development. My menus were often chosen, and my transition from a hobbyist to a dedicated professional was praised for elevating the hotel's culinary quality. As a result, I was trusted with the role of sous chef at a young age. I had thought about continuing as a chef and eventually going independent, but everything changed when the chef position changed hands. Chef Anderson, who was once a sous chef like me, joined our hotel full of determination. He aimed to make a mark in a top-tier hotel, but seemed to find my presence bothersome. Perhaps my ability to continuously create new menus and my recognized skills irked him. He harassed me every chance he got. "You don't have the basics down. Make it like I do," he complained, forcing me to mimic his supper soups or removing me from preparing meals for VIP guests, which I used to handle. His harassment escalated over time. The peace I found at the resort quickly soared. I was only trying to work hard for the hotel and myself. Why should I be oppressed by someone who was supposed to guide me? "What's with that look?" Chef Anderson noticed. Probably my displeasure showed after being praised so much by Miss Williams. He slammed his fist on the table. "If you don't like it, it's the same as not having motivation. Just quit already." That day, maybe he was particularly irritable. He ordered me to do only dishwashing. I was becoming indifferent, fed up with his tyranny. I had already been contemplating resignation. The resignation letter was ready. Maybe I should quit. I've lost my motivation to keep working here. I spent the morning not allowed to touch the ingredients and slumped in the break room when the owner came in. "Ethan, can I have a word?" "Yes." Chef Anderson's harassment only occurred in the kitchen, so the owner didn't know his true nature. Chef Anderson behaved well towards the owner and other areas. I couldn't bring myself to speak up about his actions. Hotel operation requires everyone's cooperation, meaning trust is essential. If the issues in the kitchen were to come to light, it might spread discord throughout the hotel. If I just endured it, the hotel could operate smoothly without any issues. Today, my daughter came to visit. The owner's daughter. Yes, she's aspiring to be a chef at a hotel like this. Would you mind teaching her a bit for her studies? Of course, I'd be happy to help if I can. When I was led to the owner's office, a familiar face was there. Miss Williams. "Oh, Ethan, the person I wanted to see, or more accurately, the person with whom I needed to clarify what happened that night, was there." Savannah Williams was standing right there. "So you're the owner's daughter?" I asked. "Yes." "Oh, did I not mention that?" "Wait, do you two know each other?" The owner asked. "Yes, we met at the resort the other day, right?" Her suggestive tone made my heart skip a beat. All I could manage was a nod. "Excuse me, Chef Anderson, you've come too." The owner greeted him as he entered the room. He must have been called by the owner. "Nice to meet you. I'm the head chef Anderson." "I'm Savannah Williams. Pleased to meet you. I hear you trained at a 3-star restaurant in France." "Yes, but only for a short time." She had downplayed her skills, saying she was only a novice and had sought advice from me. "But she might be more experienced than I am. Would you mind sharing some of your experiences?" "Yes, and I'd love to hear more about your work too, Chef Anderson." When Chef Anderson sat across from Miss Williams, he started talking fluently, a stark contrast to the unpleasantness he showed me. He was polite and had a pleasant smile. The owner and I also joined the conversation, mainly discussing culinary topics. Being in the presence of others, I couldn't ask about that night. I was distracted and couldn't look directly at Miss Williams. "Ethan." "Ethan." "Huh." "Oh yes." Startled, I jumped when Miss Williams called my name. "I was asking about your menu. Are you okay? You don't look well." "No, I'm fine. Sorry about that." Miss Williams looked puzzled, as if she had no idea what was troubling me. How could she be so composed? Was that night's event not special to her? Ha, it's ridiculous that I'm the only one overly conscious about it. Afterward, Miss Williams began visiting the hotel regularly as part of her studies. Chef Anderson seemed quite taken with her, addressing her as Miss Williams and sticking close by her side. The good-looking Chef Anderson and the beautiful Miss Williams made quite a pair. Whispers around suggested they were well-matched, and some even hinted at a potential match of beauty and success. Indeed, every time Miss Williams visited, she and Chef Anderson appeared to get along well, engaging in lively conversations. Apparently, there were plans for the hotel group to launch a new restaurant soon, and the menu was to be supervised by Miss Williams and Chef Anderson. Miss Williams was also expected to work at our hotel eventually. Being entrusted with such a significant task as her first job indicated high expectations. Those two, a chef and a rising star, honestly seemed like a perfect match to everyone else. Chef Anderson had a two-faced nature. However, with Miss Williams, he might continue to be kind. The two, celebrated by everyone, left me feeling like an outsider. Of course, that's only natural. The daughter of the owner and just a sous chef like me. Moreover, I'm planning to leave this job soon and will be unemployed. One day, I saw Miss Williams in the break room, a warm towel over her eyes. Miss Williams, are you okay? Is that you, Ethan? Yes, I'm fine. Just a bit of eye strain. Scattered on the table were notebooks, pamphlets, and a notepad. She seemed to be busy moving around, conducting field research, brainstorming new menu ideas, and studying various aspects of hotel management. That's good. Please take it easy and rest when you can. After offering words of encouragement, an idea struck me. The first time I cooked for Miss Williams at the resort, she was so delighted. Maybe if I made something for her now, while she's tired, it could help ease her fatigue. With a sense of urgency to do good, I decided to prepare the same taro dish that I had served her that day, along with the usual staff meals. Back then, I used locally grown garnet yams for the traditional dish. The garnet yams we get at the hotel are different in texture and sweetness, so I adjusted the seasoning to make it as similar as possible. I placed the dish on a tray and headed towards the break room where Miss Williams was. I hoped she would be pleased. No, she would be. She had praised it so much before. I was sure she would light up again. This might be the last dish I make here at the hotel. As I was about to knock on the door with these thoughts, Chef Anderson tapped me on the shoulder. Hey, where are you going with that? Chef Anderson, I was just bringing a snack for Miss Williams. It was clear that Chef Anderson had a fondness for Miss Williams, and I hesitated, fearing a misunderstanding. A snack? You think your cooking will suit Miss Williams' taste? I believe it will be fine. Previously. What? Know your place. Miss Williams is first class. There's no way she would enjoy something made by a fake chef like you. Chef Anderson's hand touched the edge of the tray I was holding, and with a crash, the dish and plates fell to the floor. I was speechless as he smirked at me. Who would want to eat your poor cooking? Get over yourself. You're just an amateur with no skills. Now clean up this mess. That's about all you're good for, trash like you. With that, he walked into the break room where Miss Williams was. I had reached my limit. I loved this job, but working under him was damaging my mental health. I was grateful to the owner and other staff, but I was starting to hate cooking itself. After cleaning up the dish I had made with care, I couldn't focus on my work for the rest of the day. My hand trembled holding the knife, and I couldn't taste anything I cooked. I decided to submit my resignation letter the next day. That night, after the service was over, I was polishing my cooking tools, knowing I wouldn't be using them here again. Lost in thought, Miss Williams entered the kitchen. Ethan, have you thought about any new dishes for next season's menu? Her expectant look was flattering, but it also made me feel guilty. No, actually, I've decided to leave this place. Leave? Yes, so I haven't thought about the menu. Suddenly, she grabbed my arm. Miss Williams gripped my arm with unexpected strength. Let's go for a drink. What? Just come. There's something I want to talk about. Confused by her sudden invitation, I followed along, ending up in a stylish private bar that seemed popular with women. Facing each other, I didn't know why she had brought me here or what to say. As I sat in silence, our ordered beers arrived. Miss Williams forcefully handed me a glass, and clinked it against mine for a toast. You haven't been as casual with me as you were when we first met. Her slightly pouting expression caught me off guard. It was natural. After what had happened, I couldn't act the same around her. I didn't know how she felt, but at least for me, is it because I'm the owner's daughter? I couldn't respond immediately. Chef Anderson's words about knowing my place echoed in my mind. I've always loved cooking. I wanted to work in a hotel like my father, but everywhere I went, it was always about my father's name, Mr. Williams' daughter, and that frustrated me. I wanted to be recognized for who I am, not through my father. So to prove myself, I polished my skills and knowledge, and I was proud of my abilities. But something was missing. That's when I encountered your cooking. Then Miss Williams opened up about her feelings, one after another. She admitted to being complacent with her cooking but realized she still had a lot to learn. She talked about how enjoyable it was to discuss cooking with me and how she felt it was fate that the person who made such an impactful dish was working at her father's hotel. She was happy to have someone who treated her not just as a hotel owner's daughter but as an individual. I didn't mention my father when we first met because I didn't want you to change your behavior towards me. I wanted to be treated as just Savannah Williams. I'm sorry I kept it from you. There's nothing to apologize for. I don't want to lose you. Her tone was firm, her gaze direct. Her cheeks were flushed, not from drunkenness or shyness, but with earnestness. I want to work with you. Did you know a new restaurant is being launched under our hotel brand? Yeah, I've heard some rumors. Then please work with me at the new restaurant. I was taken aback, wide-eyed and speechless for a moment. What? I'd originally wanted to work in a hotel, but after tasting your cooking, my thoughts changed. I want to provide first-class cuisine. First class isn't just about being delicious. It's about creativity and catering to the diner's needs. If I work with someone like you, Ethan, who constantly strives to improve without arrogance, it doesn't matter whether it's a hotel or a restaurant. Me? But why me? Ethan, you've been treated horribly by Chef Anderson, haven't you? Ah, yes. Did you know? Yes. He hides it in front of me, but it's obvious. You've barely been cooking. I've tried to stop it before, but it only made things worse for you. I'm sorry. No, it's not your fault, Miss Williams. Thank you for saying something. I don't think you should be buried here. That's why I want you to join me in running the restaurant. It'll be almost like being independent. I appreciate it, but what about Chef Anderson? I heard you two were working on various projects together. Chef Anderson, frankly, it's not working out. Our tastes and styles don't align. He seemed to be clinging to me, likely to curry favor with the owner's daughter. I had no idea she felt that way. If you're bothered by him, I should have stepped in more. I haven't been paying enough attention. I aspire to further master the culinary art, to exceed you, Ethan, and to create dishes that bring joy to all. For this, I seek your guidance. I had never been so directly and earnestly asked for my help before. Toby wanted not just my cooking but for my presence beside her. You really think highly of me, Miss Williams. Where do you see that? I pride myself on having an excellent eye for talent, Miss Williams said confidently. Her self-assurance made me want to be more assertive myself, to stand beside her as someone worthy with dignity. All right, I understand. Please count on me. Half a month later, I left the hotel to start working on the new restaurant. When Chef Anderson heard about my involvement, he confronted the owner and Miss Williams, asking why they chose me. Miss Williams replied sharply, "Someone who wastes food doesn't deserve to be a chef." She had witnessed Chef Anderson ruining my dish. She informed the owner, who then deemed Chef Anderson unsuitable as both a chef and a staff member of the hotel. Initially skeptical, the owner eventually realized Chef Anderson's true nature after hearing from other kitchen staff about his behavior towards me. Confronted by the owner, Chef Anderson exclaimed, "It's his fault. Ethan is attempting to overshadow me despite his lower position. It's only fair to assert my authority over him." Subsequently, Chef Anderson was fired for not fitting the hotel standards. The story became well known in the industry, and he struggled to find employment elsewhere. Desperate, he opened his own restaurant, but it soon failed due to a lack of patronage. The owner shared this story with me and added, "Your restaurant is a whole different story. The restaurant Miss Williams and I opened was a hit, bustling every day. We used local ingredients to create affordable dishes without compromising on taste. Our creative cuisine, meticulously crafted to please the palate, attracted endless media attention and social media coverage. It was a grand and successful opening, but we knew we couldn't rest on our laurels. It's thanks to the hotel group's name and Miss Williams' efforts we can become complacent. We must keep striving. A week after our grand opening, we celebrated our success with a party. Seeing Miss Williams happily drinking, I became a little worried, remembering the mistake we made when we first met. Enjoy yourself, but please be careful not to drink too much. I'm fine. I'm not a lightweight, but because of that night. Saying this, I showed her the note from that time. Miss Williams looked surprised. Why do you still have this? I wanted to clear things up about that night. That night, when we spent the night together. What? Miss Williams looked puzzled and then burst out laughing. Ethan, have you misunderstood something? Misunderstood? I'm sorry, the heart marks I added must have made it seem more believable. So nothing happened, right? Even when I'm drunk, I remember everything. Then the wonderful part was about our conversation on cooking. Yes. I felt a wave of relief. So nothing had happened after all. What a relief. There was a tinge of disappointment, but at least I understood why I was the only one conscious about it, and it was good that I hadn't made a move on someone I wasn't in a relationship with. Well, it would have been okay if something had happened. Miss Williams smiled beside me, making me blush. Apparently, she had taken a liking to me from the start, and in her drunkenness had leaned on me and made physical contact. However, I had gently rebuked her, telling her to value herself more, which she found endearing and made her like me in more. To me, it felt a bit cowardly. Now that we had expressed our feelings for each other, we agreed to take our relationship slowly, which was reassuring. Moving forward, I aimed to nurture not only our restaurant and culinary skills, but also our relationship alongside my beloved partner. We both understood the reliability of hard work. That's why we decided to take steady and careful steps together, with the woman I love, hand in hand.